Check. Mate. We're live. We're live in the studio. This is here with Jake.
Sam Johnson Studio.
Nice to finally meet you in person. We were pen pals for 30 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
I know I don't look like I'm 40, but I'm 40.
Mm-hmm.
And he was down in Chile, and we wrote. That's not true. None of that's true.
No, not even close.
I thought
tell them the real story of how we met and how we ended up here.
Okay, so I can do that. Usually, I ask somebody. I ask you to tell it.
Oh,
but
my
then,
bad.
well, no.
I
But for the
jumped
longest time, I would ask them, and I'd be like, "Hey, like, share the story." But then it was like weird, cause like, tell the cameras how we met.
Right.
And it was just like, especially when they didn't know what they were getting into, which is like nobody who sits down and talks with me. But we'll go back and forth here. Basically, I went to a church called Redeemer.
Right.
In Kansas City. And I brought my camera often because I was a photographer, or I still am a photographer. And tried to score some business, So, and in fact, I didn't actually bring it. No, I didn't. I didn't bring it. It was in my car, and so there's 2 levels to this church, 3 levels actually. And so they were up on the second. Jake was there with his family, and the son was coming in, and they were there with their newborn. And I was like, the son, it was a late service, so it would have been like 5 o'clock.
Right. And it was like the service was going on. Yeah. And we had to leave the service because Owen, my son, was just pitching a fit.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, we got to get the heck out of here. So we were sitting in the lobby in one of those little whatever sofas.
Oh, yeah. You're modern. Okay, so this is also like, it's not like a Catholic church. This is like modern Protestant. Like this couch looked like it was.
Right.
It looked like a set.
Yeah, it did. It really did. There's it's funny. There's a communications company in town called Fervor, a really cool communications company, and they shoot a lot of their promo videos in that lobby.
Really?
Yeah, at Redeemer.
Do they pay? Do they get?
No idea.
Is there a way? Yeah. What's the monetization on that?
Yeah.
We won't get into that, but.
Well, we got it for free that day.
Yeah, you did. Hey, when you talk into it, you do the. It's about a hand's distance. It's like too far.
Got it. This is where I want to be. This is the sweet
spot.
spot.
Like that right there. Right
Perfect.
there. Yeah. I've seen Joe Rogan correct people. Hey.
Got it.
Like even who was it? I don't know. He's got some pretty famous people where but like Joe Rogan tells you to get closer to the mic. You get closer to the mic.
That's right.
So anyway.
So this is it.
Yeah.
Cool. So if I need a cough, I can just go and then pull it back in like a pro.
No, if you need a cough because you had the flu last week, you need to just leave. Get out. I'm joking. So anyway, so I saw this opportunity for this picture. And so I told them, I didn't even think I even said it to you. I think I just went out and got my camera out of my car.
No, you said, I remember you came over and you're like, hey man, this light is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like it looks awesome. I'm a photographer. I'm going to get my camera and I'm going to take your picture. You didn't ask. You just said, I'm going to get my camera. I'm going to take your picture. And I turned to my wife. I'm like, all right, cool. And so, you disappeared for 30 seconds, came running back up. You're like, all right, got it. Let's do it. And so, so we just sat there and it was super natural. I mean, one of the best pictures of my family of all time.
Yeah.
Was that one.
So much so that he remembered me.
That's right.
That's 5 years down the road when I accidentally called him.
Yeah.
Accidentally called because I was trying to call someone else named Jake.
Right.
Jake B. And there's 2 Jake B's in my phone. And sure enough, I land on you.
Yep.
and then I was like, anytime I call somebody I don't mean to call, I spark up a conversation. How have you been?
Right.
There's got to be a reason why I called you on accident.
Right. Well, and you were in my phone.
Okay.
So you're in my phone. So, my phone rings and I'm like, who is Sam Johnson? I have no idea who this is. I'm like, they're in my phone. Clearly I know them.
Mm-hmm.
So let's pick up. Let's see who it is. And so I was already in the mindset of I'm about to have a conversation with someone that I met at some point,
Mm-hmm.
and they're calling for a reason. So I was already like, we're about to have a conversation.
Sure.
And you clearly are like, well,
Hey, yeah, wrong guy.
but how are you? What's going on?
Do you do that? You ever get like even people that like got the wrong number? I'll start a conversation with them. I'm usually very blunt. Like, why the hell are you calling me?
Right.
Kind of blunt, but they find that funny. That's I also put in a little bit of country accent right there. You know, like, who are you looking for?
That's right.
Lou. This ain't Lou.
Right.
Who the hell's Lou? Who's this? And they'll tell me their name. Oh, how you doing?
Yeah.
But okay, maybe that only happened one time. But to say the least, anytime I call somebody, I start the conversation. How have you been? So then you told me. You're like, oh yeah, the family grew.
Yeah. I mean, I think we were so my new son had just been born within like a couple of weeks. I don't even know if he was 2 weeks old yet. And you called.
Yeah.
And so, and that's, so 5 years later, my 1 year old, when you took our picture, is now 5.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got now a newborn in the family as well.
It was 5 years. I kind of, after you turn 28, you start to just kind of like 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever.
Yep.
So then I called, and so then we got to talking about like church and how we kind of left a church and went to the same church, except it was like misaligned. Like I went for 6 months before you joined, and then I also went for like 6 months after you joined. Maybe it was 5. I don't know.
We just pass each other.
Yeah.
Picture, and then you're like, here, check it out. Oh, that's awesome. Give me your number.
Give me your number. I'll send it to you. Yeah.
You texted it to me, and that was it. I got one text from you.
Yeah.
Saying, here's the pics, and then I sent you one back saying, man, this is awesome. Thanks so much. And that was it.
Yeah.
And then 5 years later, after we got done with our 45-minute out of the blue random phone call, I look at my texts, and I'm like,
do you still have that text message?
I'm sure I do.
Well, it's loaded up now because like we've gotten in contact.
That's right.
I went for my phone. I was like, I wonder, like.
No, it's buried in there now.
It's buried, but it's still there. I'm gonna keep all my text messages kind of guy. I think that's who is that I met too. Like I got text back from like 2010. 2010, man. Like conversations.
Yeah.
It's also to cover my bases, but it's another story for another time. But yeah, it was pretty interesting. And then then I go to the church. I guess this is where you should fill in on your portion of the story, because there was like this coincidence if you don't believe in God, miracle if you do believe in God.
Yeah.
That occurred.
Yeah. So we had that one conversation. It was about 45 minutes, right? Out of the blue, you call me up, and it was, hey, Jake. Yeah. This is the wrong Jake. I'm like, who's this? And then you're like, this is Sam. Oh, I remember. I took your picture back in the day. And I was like, yes, I remember who you are. And 45 minutes later, we've talked about all kinds of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We got super deep, like right off the bat. And it felt natural. It didn't feel forced at all. It just felt like a good conversation.
Yeah.
And then we hung up, and that was it. Like, you sent me a couple links to your podcast that we had, chatted about. And nothing. We did the pleasantries, like, yeah, we'll catch up sometime. I'll see you at church, or we'll grab coffee or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we didn't. And over a month goes by, and I'm at church, my new church, for a leadership meeting of some sort. And the pastor's like, hey, I want you guys to think about somebody who's in your life that you want to invite to church. And just pray for him. Pray for him and pray about inviting them to church within the next month. And I was like, you know what? That was a really great conversation that I had with Sam. And I thought about you a lot since then. And I don't know why I didn't text or call, but I thought about that conversation a lot.
It's a dude thing.
It is. It totally is. It totally is. And so, and I wanted to connect, but I just hadn't. And, life was nuts. We had a newborn, and it's Christmas time and all that stuff. But
it was
anyway,
pretty crazy.
It was. It was a lot.
I mean, I can't really attest to that because I don't have kids, but I can imagine.
Yeah, Christmas with
through my sisters having babies. My sister had two twins, and then my other sister had a baby too. So I knew a little like
twins, man. That's hardcore. Good for her. Good for her. That's legit.
She's rocking it. Yeah, she's doing it. Shout out to Allie.
Serious parenting.
Yeah.
So I prayed for you, and I was like, and I didn't feel like I need to invite you to church. This was a church that you had attended a bunch of times already.
Sure. And I told you too over the phone. I was like,
I already knew that.
I'm gonna go to the church.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So that connection had already been made.
Yeah. Things I couldn't make it for the next 5-6 months.
Right.
Another story for another time.
Right.
But I did. I remember telling you, like, as soon as I'm able, I will.
Yep. And so, and I didn't know when that timeline was at all.
Yeah.
But I get home and I don't know, some time passes. I check my phone before I go to bed, and I've got a text from you saying, "Hey man, are you going to church tomorrow?" First point of contact. So we've had now 3 points of contact, right? So 1, 5 years ago when you take a picture. The next one is a random wrong number that turns into a 45-minute conversation. And then nothing until this text that says, "Hey man, going to church tomorrow, will you be there?" And I was like, dang, that was fast. Like I just prayed for Sam, was like, he's on my heart. I hope that we can connect at church sometime. And then 2 hours later, I got this text from you saying, will you be at church? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so you showed up, we hung out, went rock climbing a couple times that week.
Wait. So this is the craziest part. So for the listeners and viewers, I've been rock climbing hardcore.
Right. Right. Oh yeah. So yeah. All right.
Like this just got I'd never found a sport other than I loved swimming, and I think swimming and rock climbing are very similar, in as far as progression and just strength. I mean, it's a lot of elongated muscle and tendons, and I don't know how much tendons are in swimming, but it's just very stretched muscles.
Right.
You don't have to be the biggest guy,
right,
to hop in a pool and swim a 50 in under 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Just like you don't have to be the biggest guy to go and climb a V7.
Right.
V8. V10.
Yeah.
That Andre dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like anyway. Getting aside.
Yeah, he looks emaciated, but he's one of the strongest human beings.
He looked like he could have been like
Adam Ondra, right?
A Holocaust survivor.
Yeah. He doesn't have a ton of muscle mass or definition,
and yet he's one of the best. He's the best, I think.
Crushing grip strength.
Yes.
Could just crush your skull.
His fingers look like two of my fingers are one of his.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. So I just joined this gym, and I'm gonna go every day. Turns out you can only really go 3 or 4 days, and then it's you gotta rest. Yeah. But so I went, and it was good. It's I'm gonna go back the next day. So that next day, before I went, I ran into a buddy of mine, my cousin. And he said that he was going to ROKC. And then I was like, I'm going to go. We should go together. He's like, yeah, totally. So then we go. So then that next day, I think I went back and I saw another buddy of mine who was working out there. I'm like, dude, this is crazy. So then the third day, then I contacted another guy that I had spoke to in 2 years. Buddy I'd been friends with for 15.
Mm-hmm.
One of those guys that we kind of just whatever. And then, hey, you rock climb, Michael rock climb. So I hit him up, and then we go. So then it comes to Sunday, and then I walk into the church, and I see you, and I meet you, and what's up? How you been? Oh, the kid's grown.
Right.
It's the last time I saw you.
That's right.
And there's one new one. And so, but then I remember looking at you and being he's like, we got to get together. We got to do something. And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do it. You rock climb, right?
Right. Just matter of fact. You rock climb, right?
And he was you're like, yeah. And then I go, you go to ROKC. He goes, yeah, how'd you know?
Yeah.
How did you know? I'm just man, it's just been a crazy, just things kind of worked out in a way that. So, with all of that said, who is your God?
Who is my God?
Who is your God?
Wow. Segue. That was like a punch to the gut. My God.
Yes.
Is the God of the Bible.
Okay.
Who is who eternally exists as three persons.
Yes.
God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
So that's my God.
Okay. So the Godhead.
Yes.
Or the Trinity.
The Godhead, the Trinity. I mean, yeah, God.
Okay.
He's God.
Yeah. I got you on the spot now because the Godhead is actually the Mormons' view of the Trinity, but I don't really know about any of that. Just kidding. Talked to a Mormon this morning. Check it out. Sunday morning live.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we had it at same spot right here at
very cool.
7:30. And
yeah,
okay. So how did you like how has that affected your life negatively?
Oh man. How has my faith affected my life negatively? Well, I mean, overwhelmingly it hasn't, right? Overwhelmingly it's been positive, but there's negative in everything. And for sure, being a Christian has not been an easy road all the time. All right, so I didn't grow up in the United States. I grew up in the UK. So I was born in St. Louis, and my dad was a businessman. He owned a chain of car dealerships. And
you've told me this 3 times, by the way, that you grew up in the UK.
Have I?
No. But in every time, I'm like, wait, what? Did you?
Have I ever told you like how we got there and what that was?
But no, not really. But
all
it
right.
was just like, I don't know. Every time, like, there's been 3 times I remember, and it's weird that like I wouldn't, because I think it's the accent thing that like because it immediately goes to you're speaking in English,
right,
American accent.
That's right.
So then I forget.
That's right.
Anyway,
I've noticed that when people discover that I lived in the UK, and it wasn't for a short period of time. It was like for 15, 16 years. My whole childhood was spent in the UK. And they're always like, well, what happened to the accent? I'm like, well, I kind of shed it pretty quickly when I moved back to the States. And part of that, I think, was just subconsciously, I just want to fit in like as quickly as possible. And I stood out.
Into the
exactly.
culture.
Didn't want to stand out. It was such culture shock moving I lived in Wales, and then I moved to Miami, Florida. So, I mean, like, drastic culture shock.
So can you still do the accent to this day, though?
No.
I mean, like, you can't do...
No. So if I was in Britain,
Yep.
it would start to come back, for sure. For sure. But, like, I've tried to put it on, and it's just... part of my body just rejects
it.
Yeah, it's like, no.
It's just a little piece. I did it for quite a while, and the thing is that I did the Irish accent, and it seems like every time I go and do the English accent, I end up going back to the Irish accent. I think it's the red hair in my beard, and just I've always wanted to live inside. I guess you can't live inside Ireland, but anyway, you grew up in the UK.
Yeah, I grew
United
up in
Kingdom.
the UK. Yep. So,
Wales specifically.
So the first couple of years we were in England, kind of northern England, in a town called Bradford, which is kind of near York, old Viking sort of town. And then we moved to Wales.
What was the oldest building in that town? I mean, was there like...
no idea. I mean, thousands of years old.
Gosh.
I mean, and there, every town in the UK pretty much, is built around some castle or fort.
Yeah.
Because that's how the towns came to be, right? Some knight was gifted land by the king, and told, your job is to tame the land and populate it and keep the people at peace.
Yeah.
And so the knight had all of their sort of people, the knights, the lords, there's a whole hierarchy, and so everybody got land. Everybody had their own fort, their own castle, their own whatever. It would be varying degrees of bigness and grandeur depending on your status. But that was your job. Your job was to keep the peace in your region.
Yeah.
And so, the knight would build their castle, and then around it, people would come to trade their goods and set up their shops and whatever. And so that's how the towns all came to be. So in most of the cities and towns in in the UK, there's some fort, usually in downtown, like right in the middle of downtown.
Like walls and everything? Or
yeah. So we lived in Bradford for a few years. I was really young when we lived in Bradford, so I don't remember a ton. But then we moved to Cardiff in Wales.
Yeah.
It's a big city by Welsh standards, and it's the capital city of Wales. And the city center is built around this fully restored castle, gigantic castle, beautifully restored with a drawbridge and a moat, and I mean everything. And it's in the middle of town. You just see it everywhere. And after a while, it's just second nature, you know.
Are there tourists that come and check it out?
Oh yeah,
It's
all
a
the
tourist
time.
attraction.
Big time.
It makes
Big
some
time.
money off that.
And if if you're a Welsh kid, you know, part of your sort of rite of passage is you've got to go on a school trip or something to the castle and do the whole tour.
It's kind of like the Nelson Atkins Museum here in Kansas City.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly. So anyway, that's, you know, everything's ancient, and so you know, we were originally from a small town outside of St. Louis. My dad owned some businesses, sold them to a rival business owner from another small town, who literally took him out for a beer and said, "I'm going to make you an offer for everything you own," and just wrote a number on a bar napkin and slid it across the table. And my dad was like, "Done." And they shook hands, and that was it. And that literally
no negotiating, just
no negotiating. Like, we're done. That sounds great. Small time, you know, business guys.
What do you sell? Like vacuums?
No, my dad sold cars.
Oh, car lots. Okay.
He owned a Chrysler and Plymouth dealership. He owned another heavy duty truck thing, and he owned a grocery store and a gas station. Just kind of a smattering of different things.
Really?
Yeah, and so my grandfather.
Where's your Walmart? And your car
where's
lot?
My inheritance?
Your Tesla dealership?
No,
I'm talking about not inheritance. I'm saying like where are you at, buddy?
oh yeah.
You should be that entrepreneur
close.
Boots right
That's
there.
Right.
Just
not even close.
Owning
not
everything.
Even close.
You deal with stocks though, right?
I did for a while.
Yeah. We'll have to
so
talk about
anymore.
that sometime.
Yeah, that'd be great. That was my job. One of my first jobs was as a stockbroker.
No way.
Yeah, see, in Miami. I worked with a sketchy company.
Penny
man.
stocks?
No, but it was. It was brutal. It
Wolf
was
of Wall Street type deal.
Yeah, I mean this place was birthed out of that era, so it wasn't that bad.
But they'd have parties.
I mean, and that wasn't where it got. What it was. Anyway, they got shut down by the SEC basically right after I left, and they were being investigated. Oh man, this is a bit of a tangent. We've jumped ahead in the story. Now we're in Miami. I'm 19, right?
Yeah.
I'm 19. I'm studying to be a stockbroker. I get my stockbroker license at the age of 19. I'm one of the youngest stockbrokers, maybe the youngest stockbroker in the state.
You still got the accent though, right?
Because
you can get into places.
Probably.
You can get into some places just by having a little bit of English twang.
It took about a year for the accent to fully disappear. And
isn't that weird though? For some reason, when people speak in an English accent, you figure that they're 10% smarter. Just
absolutely. You just give them your wallet.
You
know,
they can walk.
I'm here to sell you an investment. Oh, here you go. You're trustworthy. Here's my social.
There you go.
What am I buying?
Which is crazy because the scammers are always, at least what I've seen on YouTube, are Indian voices. You would think that they would just learn how to speak in an English accent and get all the money in the world. You hear about that $8 billion scam?
No.
Okay.
Which one?
I don't know. It's just I'm just saying that to justify that the Indians know what they're doing whenever they scam. I think it was 8 million or 80 million. It was something to do with a jet and.
Oh jeez.
Continue on. I'll listen, and I need to justify my. No, I don't. Go ahead. What am I thinking?
All right, so we've got like 3 different stories going now.
So you went from so you were in Britain and
right,
you grew up there.
So we're in Britain. All right, my dad sells the business.
Yes.
We all moved to the UK. Why did we move to the UK? Because a buddy of my dad's, pretty much was that he met in Bible school. Was in the UK planting churches. He's a British guy. He was in the UK planting churches and launching a Christian publishing company. And he approached my dad and said, hey, I heard that you just sold the family business. Why don't you move over here for a couple of years, help me get this publishing company off the ground, help me launch a church. So my dad says, sure. So the plan is to move over there for 2 years. So we get there, northern England. We're there for 2 years. And then my dad finds another business in Wales that he can buy into. And it was a small packaging company. So they would take cheese and other kind of dairy products, package it, and then ship it to the grocery store. So he buys into that company, and we all move to Wales. And so, I live in a Christian home and a Christian family. And my faith isn't really challenged until I get to high school.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my first, and so, the UK is overtly atheist.
Catholic, right?
No, very atheist.
Really?
Yeah. It's at this point today, it's something like 60% atheist. I mean, it's over 50% atheist. It's legit atheist or agnostic. And so, and there's not a huge amount of tolerance for people who believe in God. And so I remember.
Here we go.
What do you got?
2004 survey by the BBC in 10 countries showed the proportion of the population who don't believe in God varying between 0% Nigeria.
That's not true. There's a bunch of Christians in Nigeria.
And 39% in the UK, with an average close to 17% in the countries surveyed. However, 8% of the respondents specifically stated that they consider themselves atheists. All right. So this is Wikipedia, and it's saying demographics of atheism. I'm with you on that there's not very many believers in
not a ton of believers
Europe, and it's declining.
Yeah, and in the UK for sure. And so, so they
comment below. Comment below.
That's right.
Give us a little, but yeah.
So on one of my first days of high school, I went to a big high school. So there's no middle school in the UK. You just go from elementary school to high school, or primary school to secondary school, right?
Yeah.
And so you're young. You're like 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
We're walking into high school with kids who are, 16, 17 years old. And I remember out of this school of, 1,000, 2,000 kids, there wasn't that many Christians. So there was maybe a couple dozen.
There was no FCA.
No. No FCA, no Christian radio, no Christian publications, nothing like that. The Christian subculture barely existed.
Well, there was Mere Christianity guy.
C.S. Lewis, right, who had died 30 years before I got there.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, yes. And so I remember on one of my first days in high school, seeing a guy I knew was a Christian just getting his ass beat.
Yeah.
Because he was a Christian, right? And these bullies were just beating him down. And I was terrified because I was a young kid going to high school. And right at that moment, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously at that moment, I knew that I had to just hide my faith and shut up about it and just act like you don't believe. And so, that's a long-winded answer to your question. The negative, that was the first real negative, thing that I experienced with being a Christian and having faith. And it didn't even happen to me. It happened to somebody else.
It's kind of like being gay in the 90s.
I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
And so I made a decision that I was going to hide my faith. I wasn't going to be outspoken about it. And that ultimately, over the next few years, led me very far away from Christianity, very far away from God.
Yeah.
And I lived a totally secular life, the total opposite of everyone else in my family, until really my early mid-20s, when I really reclaimed my faith, or God reclaimed my faith, and it became real. And
in Florida?
in Florida, in Miami of all places.
Yeah, and like
right?
this would be 90s, wouldn't it?
I moved to Miami just before
How old are you?
2000. I was 19.
How old are you now, though?
39.
39.
Yeah.
So it would be 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
1999, baby.
1999. That's right.
About that time.
Yeah. And so I moved to
There's a lot of cocaine in Florida at that time.
I mean, there probably still is.
There probably still is.
You know? But yeah, I remember I worked with the guy at this stockbroker company. He's a hilarious guy, and he made this joke about like every time a hurricane rolls through, he lived right on the water. So every time a hurricane rolls through, he just like waits out there for a package of cocaine to float by, and he snatches it and then sells it on the street. And that's how he manages to live on the water.
That's kind of funny.
But anyway, so yeah, I moved to Miami in '99.
Because that's where they came in. They shipped it to
Florida.
Yeah.
Oh, they boated in. A lot of it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there was this one story. This is hilarious. And you can Google it. I can't remember the name of the guys, but there's this Russian.
Oh yeah,
group,
I know what you're talking about.
And they owned, I think it was called like the Pink Pussycat Lounge or something like that. It was a strip club, and they used that as a front to launder a lot of cash and other stuff. But somehow or other, they got their hands on like a Russian U-boat, like this submarine.
Yeah.
And they would submarine their drugs up the Miami River, which goes right through the middle of downtown, for miles. And what's funky about it is, they would just sneak under all of the police boats, and then they'd pop up at the, one of their homes or something that was on this river, offload all their stuff, and then they'd get out. And this is during like the Vice era, the Miami Vice era, where they're really cracking down on all the drug trafficking and whatever. And this one crime family always has supply, and the cops are like, how on earth are they getting by us? Like, we've locked down everything. And they finally realized that they had this submarine, and they were submarining their drugs right up the Miami, literally going underneath the police boats and then popping up on the other side and offloading their stuff.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
It's
I didn't
wild,
hear
man.
about that,
It's
but
wild.
I know that they're a vlog that I watch. He pulled up next to somebody and they were videotaping, and he said, "Look me up, look me up." He apparently was like one of the biggest drug smugglers or something, but he's still, and he's out in Florida.
Yeah.
Florida's where the old go to die and the crooks to finish off their lives.
Hey, man, it's a good place to retire, regardless of what you've done in your past. It's a good place to retire.
I should go there and just, set up this right that and open up you got a story, come in.
Right. What's your story?
Wouldn't that be cool? That'd be actually interesting. It's
You'd meet some cool people for sure.
Just having like a come on in, let's talk.
Right.
I'm worried that there'd just be like a bunch of homeless people who'd be coming in. But still, there'd be some crazy stories with the...
Yeah, there would be. Yeah, there would be, I think. Yeah.
So anyway, you were in Miami, Florida, and...
Yeah, so I moved to Miami when I was 19, and...
which beats out the atheist percentages, probably, in Florida.
I mean,
is there any
Miami's... Yeah, there's a lot of churches. I mean, there's a big Catholic presence in Miami. There's a huge, Cuban and right population, so there's a lot of Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
But Protestant churches, it's a pretty unchurched area.
Sure.
And I remember at one point,
I got a
like,
buddy
looking
who
at
lives down there. I
stats.
can't say that there are no churches.
Right. I mean, and there's some really great ones.
Yeah.
Some really great ones. But I remember looking at the stats at some point, and I don't know how they rank this, but of the most unchurched counties in the country, Miami-Dade was like top 3, something like that, which wasn't surprising, right? So I moved to Miami, and at this point, my life in the UK, I just partied hard and lived like a regular kind of kid in the UK. I was a nice guy. I wasn't mean to anyone. I had a lot of friends.
You were morally right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I treated people well. Religiously dead, right?
Dead?
Mean, well, no. I
Did
can't
you
say
read
that.
can you remember a time where you just didn't ever read the Bible?
Yeah. my whole teenage life.
Yeah.
That was pretty much it. And I was leading these two lives, right? I had the life where I felt, and this was entirely me, because I had great parents, really great parents, and a great family. But I felt like I was wedged into this family of almost perfect people, and I was the screw up, right?
The black sheep.
Yeah, totally. So my older brother is brilliant, one of the smartest people I know, and one of the most caring and kind people I know, and his relationship with the Lord has always been rock solid.
He's not just intelligent, but he's also kind.
Yeah.
Which are the worst kind of people. Have you ever heard Jordan Peterson talk about the Harvard student that he had stay inside his home for some period of time? And he pointed out how it's one thing, he was so intelligent. These kids are so intelligent, but they had to. He was giving an idea of who Abel was. He was these kids that came and it was one thing that they were extremely intelligent, just and polite.
Right.
They had to be polite.
Right.
They didn't. It wasn't. You would think that they would just be the biggest assholes
Ever.
to walk in and just they're they go to Harvard and they scholarships through the window. I mean, they did every paper to get free money, and they did it. But they were also kind and respectful. Mm-hmm. Those are the worst kind of people. Mm. That's why Cain resented Abel and did what he did. Mm. But
well, so in that case, they're the worst kind of people. Well, how do you say that? They create more envy in people who are envious.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was so. Talk about Cain and Abel, right?
You
so
and your brother.
Here we are, me and my brother, my literal biological brother.
Yeah.
Brilliant, kind, smart, great older brother. Was best man at my wedding, and I love him dearly. Just a brilliant person, and anyway, so he's above me, and then there's me, and then my younger sister. Probably smarter than my older brother, probably kinder than my older brother, has an even stronger relationship with Jesus and the Lord, and everybody respected her greatly, and she's tough. Like, she had 3 brothers growing up, so she's strong but kind. And anyway, so she follows me, and so I'm wedged in between these 2 straight A students. And I remember, so me and my brother were 2 years apart, and we went to the same high school, right? And so my brother, brilliant, got straight A's in everything. And so I walk into math class. What it didn't matter. This happened at least a half a dozen times. I walk into math class, they're taking attendance first day. And Barreth isn't exactly the most common name.
Sure.
And so they get to me and they're like, "Jake Barreth?" I'm like, "Yep, here." And they're like, "Are you Ben Barreth's brother?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Literally, this happened at least a half a dozen times. I'm like, "Yes." And you could see him just like, oh man, this is going to make my career. I had one Barreth who just crushed it. Now I got a second Barreth. Oh man, this is going to look so good. And within about a month, they're like, "This kid's a freaking dumbass." just lazy and just doesn't work, And so anyway, that's kind of how I felt. I was following this brilliance of my brother, this trail of brilliance that he left, and then here I come.
I can't necessarily say my sisters were they're smart. They're very, very. Actually, you know what? They are brilliant. I mean, my sister is a nurse, and something I wouldn't ever be able to do. Just don't have. They're extremely. They were well known in high school. They were cheerleaders, but they were also extremely kind and generous and not your average cheerleader, because they showed time and respect to everybody.
Yeah.
And the teachers knew them too.
All right.
So I went through high school similar situations where Sam Johnson, except instead of them going, "Oh, are you whatever, because Johnson's common name.
Right.
I would go, because they would ask too. It's so weird now that I think about it. Like if like brothers or somebody in the class would clearly have an older brother or older sister that teacher knew, and so then I was like the kid that was like, oh, did you know Allie or Megan?
Right.
So like someone like you in the class, and then they're like, oh yeah, Barreth, yeah. And then then I would know that the teacher's been here for a while, and I'd be like, oh, did you know Allie or Megan?
Right.
And so they would have like this preconceived like notion of who I was, except I was the guy in the family. I was the youngest brother and just the most freaking obnoxious. Like I'm sure that my sisters didn't blurt out in class and raise their hand and ask stupid questions just to get under the teacher's skin. I got kicked out of class one time for asking a stupid question in a classroom that had a poster on the wall that said there's no such thing as a stupid question.
We all know that's a lie.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is that I saw that poster on the wall and I go, challenge accepted. She sent me to the principal's office.
That's right.
Or the classroom next door, but I digress.
Yeah. So
you went through high school as the smart kid's
the black
brother.
sheep. Yeah. Well, and not just the smart kids, but they were just good. They're just good. And I was a nice guy.
Sure.
I mean, I got along with everyone. I got along with all my teachers, but my relationship with the Lord was hidden. So so I had this.
Was your brother's on display?
Yeah, and he got made fun of a lot, but he just sucked it up and dealt
bigger?
with it. No, he's
courageous.
Yeah, he's courageous. That's right.
Yeah.
And bold.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I didn't recognize that or respect it.
Yeah.
I sort of saw it as weakness, and a lot of people do. Or it
was a Cain and Abel situation.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I think that's very well put. And I don't think I
wanted to kill him.
No, no. I don't think I realized that I was envious of him, and I'm not sure that I was outright envious of him or jealous of him. But there was definitely, I felt like he cast a really almost too perfect shadow, and that I was destined to not live up to that. And I felt like I was in competition with both my older siblings, my older brother, my older brother and younger sister. I felt like I was in competition with them in areas that they're really gifted in, right? So academics and academia, they're both brilliant in those areas, and being bold in their faith and really surrounding themselves with good people who have strong faith and that wasn't me.
They were strategical.
They had their support group.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't. And I had, I had my own friends who were awesome, but none of them were Christian. Some really, really, the closest friends I've ever had in my life were the kids I grew up with in Wales, and we would go to war together if we had to. And defend each other with our lives, but none of them were walking with Jesus. None of them wanted to hear about it. And at that point, I'd already resigned to never talking about it. And that left me with a lot of guilt in my heart. Like, I knew who Jesus was. I knew I believed in Jesus in my heart, but I had also rejected Jesus. I'd stuffed him in the closet and said, don't come out. Don't you dare come out. You'll embarrass me. You'll cause me grief and pain and suffering, and I know that you're real and you're true, and you even died for me. I'm not willing to let you out of this place for fear that you'll embarrass me.
Were you a pretty cool kid?
Yeah, I tried to be. And
we're now out of high school. It's been a while. Were you a cool kid, or were you
I had a lot of friends.
You had a lot of...
I had a lot.
Okay.
So that was the area that I was good in.
Yeah.
Right. So my brother and sister, they had a small number of friends. I knew everybody, and I loved everybody, and everybody loved me, and I just had this big circle of friends.
Well, you knew the upperclassmen and the lowerclassmen.
Somewhat, yes.
Was there overlap? How was it? 3 years, 4 years? How far apart were you guys?
So it was my brother. 2 years later was me. Then 2 years later was my sister.
Okay, so like.
So we're right there. Now, she went to a different high school, but nevertheless, I knew all of her friends. And, the UK is, there's some big cities, but even the big cities, it's all small towny. You know everybody.
Yeah.
And so I knew, some of my friends were related to my sister's friends, and, I knew my brother and his friends. And so I had friends all over the place.
Yeah.
And the different sort of cliques in high school, I just had
tight
friends.
Knit.
Yeah. I mean, they were, but
Do you still have any friends from Wales?
yeah, I do. It's been a while since we caught up, but I do. I mean, so there was probably, I don't know, there was dozens of people that I knew, and then a dozen that were really tight friends.
Yeah.
And then within that, there was 5 that were like brothers. We were so close.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, I was really lucky that I had great friends, but none of them knew Jesus, and none of them, and neither did I. And stuffing, Jesus in the closet for so long, really brought me a lot of guilt and pain, and because I knew it was true, and I knew that I knew that I shouldn't be so afraid.
Yeah. Is it today that you feel that guilt, or was it then?
No, it was then. I've reconciled it now.
Yeah, sure.
But then it was heavy, and living a life that I knew that I wasn't really supposed to live, just partying super hard, and
do you want water?
if you got one, I'll take one. If not, don't sweat it. It's not.
So I brought that
Now
new
we're
cup
talking.
down here, and this is the new cup, but I poured the other one into the new cup. So you can either drink after me, or you can drink after my Mormon buddy. I would choose my Mormon buddy because
Whatever you choose, I'm fine with. I'll drink after anybody.
okay.
It doesn't matter. I just came off of having the flu and the stomach bug, so my antibodies are like through the roof. I can stick anything in my mouth.
All right.
I'm gonna be just fine.
I'd rather not have to get up and walk over there, and this is just easier.
There you go. And you just keep the jug.
Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, man.
Well, I got a water down here too. So.
So anyway, so all that to say, so I would still go to church with the family, and at church I'd keep up with appearances, and I'd, say I'd walk the walk and whatever. But then, that was it. It was Sunday morning. It was a show, and then the rest of the week it was me just living my life however I wanted, and that led me to that led me into a lot of depression. I wrestled with a lot of depression and anxiety.
Well, you were torn in two.
Yes, exactly
So
right.
I feel that because I too was like, I was in that. I think I shared a little bit with this to you, is that walking through high school is that like I had this, who I wanted to be. Like I wanted to be a good person. I wanted to be that guy, But then I also had this perceived individual that I knew that others in that high school saw me as. So I think maybe I shared this once or twice. Actually, I've said this to multiple people, but I think that my mother was going to name me, I think it was Ryan, which I think I look like a Ryan, but I act like a Sam. Okay. So I had like this double persona going on, like Ryan and Sam. Ryan was this well, I'll lay it out for you. Is that like when I told girls that I was a virgin, it was like, no, you're not. No, you're not. There's no way. And I was like, no, I'm like 16 and I'm a virgin. So they would be like, no, you're not. And then I'd talk to them, and we'd like talk till like 3 o'clock in the morning on the phone. You know how it is. And then they'd be like, this guy, no, he's not talking to me for the reason that Tyler's talking to me.
What do you mean?
As in, Tyler opened that door, and like, I think that there's like this, women know like whether you're talking to them with an ends meet or like a goal of
an end in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's an open conversation, you know?
Yeah.
So, like all through high school, it's like I had this perceived like as if I was a player. It's like, okay, but I'm not, and I almost like fell into that role of that because I was like, oh, this is what you people want, okay, all right,
yeah,
let's do that.
Yeah, like
so
the self-fulfilled prophecy.
Yes.
Yeah, if you believe you are something, eventually you become that thing.
Yeah,
right?
But it was so wrapped up with the other people's perspective on me that like that was like at the top of my hierarchy. It wasn't the ideal self that I saw. It was the ideal self that others saw. And so then I was like, okay, this is who you see me to be. Not even a Ryan or a Sam, but like a Chad. Yeah. And so I fell into that role of a Chad. Don't get me wrong, I still had a personality, but it was like I don't know. Girls wanted to kiss me, and so I was like, okay, all right, here's a kiss, and then it. So I don't know how we fell down this rabbit hole, but
yeah, I mean, you know, being a teenager is hard for everybody, and I think a lot of teenagers struggle with depression. We know they do, right? Statistically, teenagers, are just fraught with depression and anxiety and all kinds of stuff. And part of it is because you don't know anything, but you put these expectations on yourself. Like you have to play to the crowd, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to find where you fit in this high school. High schools are just whack. They're one of the strangest places on earth.
Oh,
got
yeah.
all these different cliques and these different. It's its own like incredibly complex subculture, and you got to figure out where you live in this thing and what your reputation is going to be. You're freaking out about everything.
Am I just trying to get by? Or am I trying to be known? Or am I trying to get scholarships? Am I planning on dropping out? Do I hope that my father doesn't get drunk tonight and beat me?
Sure. Yeah.
By the way, that wasn't my circumstances, but
right. If dad's even home.
Yeah, if dad's is dad
mom's even home or whatever.
Yeah. And you've got all of these mishmash of people in there.
Hormones are going crazy.
Yeah.
It's rough. It's a rough time, and you don't know who you are, and you're trying to figure out who you are. You don't have any answers for anything, but yet you
get the worst advice from like
your friends who act like they know what they're talking about,
and they have
they don't know
freaking clue.
That's right. Yeah, and so it's a tough time for every kid. You add to that trying to please multiple or trying to live different lives to cater to different people's expectations. So my religious friends' expectations and then my non-religious friend, or in your case, whatever.
I had like a community of like religious gamers, athletics,
right?
The cool guys. I'd primarily just make fun of them. But there's a couple there that was like, good to see you.
Right.
Like they know I'm getting under their skin and I'm getting under their friend's skin, and they love it. They were not going to say it. But I could run fast. So, but in 5th grade, I think it was. No, 6th grade, 4th grade. My birthday parties, I would have birthday parties every year. Like, I was fortunate to have a father that was a salesman who made good money to the point where I could have birthday parties at the bowling alley and invite, like, not like 6, 7 of my friends, but I can invite like 15, 20 kids. Right? And so there's a picture that I remember. I wish I could pop it up on the shelf or something. But you had the kid that had smelly clothes, smelly backpack. Hadn't got a new backpack since ever, right? Hand me down. This was his brother's, and it's just ratted. You had him in the picture. You had the most popular girl. You had the kid with Down syndrome. There's a boy that had Down syndrome that I invited. You had all that to say is like where I fell through life in like high school, but like where I came from. So like I had this like, you kind of wonder like when was it that because I don't believe that you're born inherently good. Like I think I agree. That's very clear that as soon as you come out, you're screaming, yelling, craving attention, but primarily food, but a lot of attention. And you can maybe, you're nodding your head to this, is that this is true. So, where is it that shift happens? When do you find out, as Peterson says, that you're vulnerable? When do you recognize that you can be hurt and you have the capability of hurting others through deceit and through
malice and malintent?
Yeah,
I don't know. What does he say? He's a clinical psychologist. He should have some interesting thoughts.
Well, it was I've been diving deep into this, and I got to the chapter finally where it sounded like he hit kind of rock bottom, and what he wanted to find was a rock. He described it as a rock, a foundation, truth, like something that he could base his reality off of. And that truth, that fundamental reality, fundamental foundation is that there is suffering in the world. And so like he built a lot of his thought process stacked from there, is to say that there is suffering.
Yeah.
And it was inevitable. Almost kind of like how I base a lot of where earlier on in my life where I was like, we're not born inherently good. Like we pop out and we're not. 3-year-olds have every intent of getting that candy bar from you, even if it means smiling and doing some cute little dance.
Sure.
A 5-year-old starts to have the capability to manipulate.
Absolutely.
By 7, you know how to lie. Like to the T, By 9, you're able to sneak around. You know every nook and cranny of that home. So I don't know where we got to this point, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. I think that, there's, it all, it comes down to, what do you fundamentally believe about sin?
Yeah.
Right. And what is sin?
Not right and wrong.
That's right.
Not ethically.
That's right.
You could have a conversation of ethics.
Right.
What's right and what's wrong.
That's right. And which are social constructs to some degree, right? They're manipulated by culture and so forth. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what is inherently sinful and what's not.
Yeah.
And so, for me, the foundation is Jesus, and the law is the Bible.
Yeah.
Right. And so what does the Bible say? Well, the Bible gives us lots of lists of sin, right? Don't do these things. Right?
Do not murder.
Right. The 10 Commandments is a list. The book of Leviticus is pretty much a list. And then even in the New Testament, there's, lists of sins that you shouldn't do. And those exist for a purpose, right? Those are printed in the Bible for a purpose.
Yeah.
But sin is not a list. It's not like if you adhere to the list, or rather abstain from the things on the list, now you're sinless, and you're going to be okay, and you'll get to go to heaven. If you're a good enough person, you'll get to go to heaven. You know, that's not fundamentally what sin is.
Sin is you can't avoid sin.
That's right. Sin is, you know, sin entered the world and wrapped itself around our souls so that it is part of who we are. It's not that you sin when you think something bad, or you sin. We are natural sinners. It's part of our DNA and part of our makeup. It's the yin versus the yang, right? There's
chaos and order. Right.
Created in God's image, in his beautiful, amazing, righteous image, and thus we have the ability to do and be and incredible things. We can right wrongs, and we can stand for justice when injustice exists, and rally against oppression, and we can serve the poor, and those are all fundamentally, you know, attributes of God, who is good.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have this sin that's entwined with our heart, and it can drive us to do terrible atrocities. I mean, look throughout human history. Look at human.
Well, Hitler's actions. How do they start? They started internally.
Absolutely, and
actually, he just took the ideas of Nietzsche, and just applied them in completely incorrect manner.
Right, and in a incorrect manner,
trying to fill a prophecy
with a sociopathic bent. Right, just
nihilistic is the term that Peterson kind of laid out. This like really fine line of like, there was a lot of order. I mean, the king, you know, the hierarchy was there. You had the upper, middle, lower class. You had upper and lower class. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You didn't really have a middle class in that time, and it was very orderly. And the pros to that orderliness was that there wasn't nihilism. There wasn't this idea that this idea of a utopia, right? This idea that we can fix this suffering for good and final. Because the people in the lower class were like, whoa, suffering, what's suffering? We don't really, like, you wake up, it was almost behavioral. You know, like, people in the lower class, it was kind of like animals, right? You know, you woke up, you worked, you went to sleep. You woke up, you worked, you went to sleep. You had food that you bought. And then same thing in the upper class is that you woke up, you ate, you slept, you woke up, you ate, you slept. And, like, it was just this behavioral. But then this revolution happened of Christianity actually was the originator of separation of church and state. I thought that was mind-blowing when I read that. That's real. That's true. So then what you have is like this kind of like this clear like flip over of like now you have the scientific era that now people have kind of this there's more people thinking and seeing like what I don't know. I'm trying to like summarize a book that is so deep and
well, you know, so
we got to get you reading it. I'll read it again with you we can like.
I'd love to read it. I don't know much about it. I mean, I know a bit about it, but
sure.
But yeah, so you know so before the Enlightenment, right? The Enlightenment era.
Sure.
Everyone believed in God, pretty much.
Yeah, that's right. And then God died.
Well, God died later, but
okay.
Well, kinda. So the Enlightenment comes around, and all of a sudden people start questioning things, questioning everything, and science, you know, emerges as a legit thing, and people, you know, who used to just sort of poo-poo science as sort of black magic, now all of a sudden, no, there's evidence that, you know, so the science, you know, science emerges, and people start questioning, well, is God real, right? So pre-Enlightenment, the question of the day regarding God was, whose God is most powerful? Is it the Roman God, the Greek God? Is it the Christian God, right? And that was the question that you had to answer. whose God is most powerful. So you read about Paul going to the Grecians, and he's sitting there and he's having these debates, and he tells them, my God is the all-powerful God. You have a monument to this unknown God. Let me tell you about him.
Is it Apollos?
No, there's literally a monument to the not yet known God.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
As though just to cover all of our bases, if there's a God out there that we're not aware of who might be the most powerful, let's put
we're still praying to you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so that was the question. The question was, whose God is most powerful? And then the Enlightenment comes along, and the question changes to, does God exist? Right? And then, around about that time, there's this theory or this idea is birthed of I forget what it's called, but basically it's like human endeavor can fix everything. Like humanity is on this trajectory of upward progress, and that as time goes on, we will naturally sort of evolve into smarter, kinder, nicer people.
Yeah.
And that evil will diminish as human progress continues.
Humanity can conquer sin.
That's right. Exactly right. That's the idea.
Yeah.
That we don't need God anymore. Because humanity, now that we are enlightened, now that we're asking these questions, we can,
we can just be kinder to each other.
That's right. And
we can find happiness.
The more we study, the more we learn, the more we seek answers, the more enlightened we'll become. And thus human progress will eventually, do away with sin and evil and whatnot. So, the 20th century comes along and proves that theory to be total garbage, because we have back-to-back world wars and utter devastation around the world. And all of the, these ideas of human progress, of unchecked human progress, solving all the world's issues, came from academia. Right? It came from really Europe, from Greece and from Rome, and really from these centers of thought and academia.
Nietzsche, and then there's another one that was specifically noted that I don't know the other guy.
Right,
but go on with the premise is that.
Yeah, so then so that's the idea, but they completely ignored all of the suffering in the world.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we'll all just get smarter and we'll all live. It was this very, arrogant kind of view of oh, yeah, we'll just think our way out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Out of these massive complexities and this stifling poverty, and people, average age of, longevity was 30 or whatever it was.
Yeah. 40 probably.
So then we get through our Second World War, and everyone stops and says, okay, well, that was garbage.
Yeah.
Right. Clearly, we have the smartest people on earth.
Yeah.
Waging just atrocious wars against each other, and using our intellect and power and science to create weapons that are just utterly devastating, and not just devastating but cruel. So that idea has just been kiboshed.
The Nuremberg trials.
Yes.
What was that? Was that do you know what that was?
The Nuremberg trials?
Yeah. It's this idea that there is too far as torture.
Right.
It was a humanitarian effort to say, there's there's no country that can do, we will not stand on we will stand on united, but we want diversity.
Right.
I should stop that. United on this idea that there's something that is inherently evil. There is something so far wrong that we could consider it evil, and if you do it in your country, we're not going to stand for that.
Right. Yeah. So they draft the Hague Convention, right, and the ethical treatment of human beings during wartime.
Mm-hmm.
And they start drawing these delineating lines to make sure that people don't, so they do away with biological weapons, which
mustard gas,
and all kinds of other crazy, terrible things that really only existed to just murder as many people as possible.
Well, to get like it was a slow, terrible death.
Right. It wasn't just like poison, you're dead.
Yeah, it was also gassing the Jews, because gassing the Jews, it wasn't like you breathe it in and you're dead. Like it's like it eats you from the inside out.
Yeah, terrible. Just some sick-minded person, envisioned this.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, this will work. It was like, no. Let's engineer this to be a torture mechanism.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, we've clearly humanity is not going to progress to the point to where we can do away with evil.
Yes.
We're incapable. We've tried it. Anyway,
basically what it does is it to do that, there has to be more people that suffer. For nobody to this idea of nobody will suffer only reverts us back like immediately to upper class, lower class, parasites and heaven. So, and we saw that in the 40s.
Right.
So now we're present time. So this is interesting. We talked about a lot of your your past and so now we've moved into like.
So now we're like present, and so
on a world scale.
So after these wars, the question shifted about God again.
Yeah.
So it was, whose God is most powerful? Then it was, does God even exist? And then it's, well, if he exists, does it matter? Does God even matter?
Sure.
Because look at what just happened, and where was God in the midst of all that? And so today's question about God is that. Doesn't matter if he exists or not. Or rather, does it even matter if he exists or not? And so...
because if he does this...
If he doesn't,
look at that. Look at this.
That's right. And so that's kind of where we're at. And so, yes, back to the Enlightenment and the idea that we could think our way into sort of... think our way into treating each other nice. It was a fallacy, which gives evidence to this idea that sin is part of who we are, and we can't rid ourselves of it. It's just in us.
Yeah.
And give us the right set of circumstances, and everyone is a cruel and terrible person. Here's a great example, right? So I had a conversation with a guy once, and he was basically saying, hey, I'm a good guy. I think I should go to heaven. And I was like, okay, well, it's not about being a good person. It's not the list. It's not just, abstain from the list and then you get to go to heaven. It's acknowledging that that you have sin in your life, and that there's nothing you can do to get rid of it. It's just part of who we are. But Jesus came to die for our sins, and Jesus paid the price, because there has to be a price, right? If God is truly just, he can't let all of this atrocity go without some punishment, without some response.
Discipline.
If so, then you would be right to say, does God even exist? Look at what just happened, right?
Yeah.
All this. So justice is coming.
Well, just to clip on that point is that to say that you can't say that if you say that God exists and then you say, well, look at this, then that response to that is that to suffering in general is that you're just looking at half of the coin. You if you're going to point at this and say, look at this evil justice, like look at this demented idea of justice that happened. If you can't look at evil without looking at the good. You can't point at somebody something and like here's a really sticky idea, and I'm worried to even bring it up on live, like just even speak it. But is there and I want to frame it in a way that is not going to get people fired up to, come find me and kill me. Was there life to come? Was there a phoenix in the ashes of the Holocaust? Was there something that came from that?
Like a silver lining, some good that came
Even
out
that
of
sounds
this.
like crap.
I mean, yeah, there's no way you can frame that question without it's, because it was so bad.
Yeah.
The idea that anything
Like I can talk
good,
personally in my life of like the breakups that I went through.
Sure.
I'm grateful for for those breakups.
Yeah.
Like I'm thankful that God gave me that pearl of truth about
Amen.
myself that there's no sense in me.
Yeah. I mean, as a married guy, I'm so glad every relationship before my wife ended. You know what I mean? So yes, totally.
And you can talk about that on a personal, but as soon as you pull that into the less individual and more collective idea, then it becomes very sticky.
Well, I think so. I think the question is, in light of such terrible evil, what was the response from the opposite? What was the response of the good, right? And so we created laws.
Yes.
Right? We created laws to protect people. We recognize Jews as individual people, as a legitimate religion, and as people who have feelings, and we saw them.
Yeah. Well, do you think that this would be in the 40s? When were the Jim Crow laws? Would that be the?
I don't know. This is not
That's
not my area. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's a fascinating idea, though. The parallels, did which.
Yeah. By the way, did you know that Hitler was on Time magazine's front cover in like 1945 or something?
Yeah, I did not know.
Did you know that? I hope it makes you look at Time a little bit differently.
I mean,
not the Time, but
right. What
the
was
magazine.
What was the article?
You got the computer right.
Yeah, let's look it up. Yeah, let's see it. So yeah, I mean, it's it's a sticky situation.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, let's divert.
The point is, because of how horrible the Second World War was, I think people woke up somewhat to how terrible humanity can be, and how terrible and atrocious war is.
$1936.
So what's the?
Like, what's the article about? And like, I'm sure that
he's on
you
the
can't
cover.
find it.
He's on the cover. That's one thing. But what do they write about him?
It has I bet you can't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure that, Time explained that what was perhaps the most controversial of its choices, thus Hitler became, in the 1938, the greatest threatening force that the democratic, freedom-loving world faces today. Yeah. Hitler rise, but that's the thing is, I don't think that when they had them on the cover that it was because he was the most.
That was why.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll put that aside.
Yeah. So
we'll forgive Time magazine for that. But so my question, I guess, since we've like worked this problem we like brought some individual like, and then now we're looking at the world. Is that like, where is it go from here?
Right. So, all right. So,
and what has to change? I don't even know if we have time to answer both of those questions.
How are we doing on time? How much we got?
We're doing really well. I mean, it's only an hour 20.
Okay. I don't know how long this goes for, but it sounds great. Let's do it.
Well, so let's like the longest one was like 4 hours.
Nice. So shooting for under 4.
Yeah.
All right.
We're shooting for under 3.5. I'm shooting for around 3.
You're the timekeeper.
I'm going to sleep. No, this is good.
All right, so
I would have thought that we would have been on like hour 3, but
yeah,
it's only been an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, we'll cover a lot of ground.
Yeah.
All right, so I said something about. Oh yeah, okay. So here we are today. Does God even matter? So I'm having this conversation with a guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm a good guy. I should go to heaven, whatever. And I don't like the idea that good people, that good people, if they don't, accept Jesus, they don't get to go to heaven. And I was like, well, it's not about
because that's not fair.
Right. It's not fair.
Yeah.
Right. And I get the argument. I totally get it.
Yeah.
And it sounds really harsh, super harsh. So, but I asked him, well, it's not about being good, and it's not about abstaining from stuff on the list. It's about admitting that this sin is entwined on our hearts and we can't rid ourselves of it. But there has to be a penalty, right? There has to be. If God is truly just, then there has to be a penalty for what we are capable of and what we have already done to each other and others and blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, what about me? I haven't really done anything all that bad. And he was eating like some chocolate bar, right? And I was like, all right, well, let's let's explore this a bit. I said, all right, so you're eating this chocolate bar, right? And you're a good guy, right? He's like, yeah. I said, is that fair trade chocolate? And he's like, well, I don't think so. It's like, all right, it's not. And, I got some chocolate over in my pantry or whatever, and it's not fair trade either. But we both know what that means. That means that the cocoa beans that went into making that chocolate, there's a high likelihood that it was harvested by a child somewhere in atrocious circumstances. And you and I both know this is true. We know what fair trade is. We know that it applies to chocolate, and yet you're sitting there with that, and I've got stuff in my closet, whatever.
I don't know this, but he knew this?
Yeah, that's what fair trade, means. It means ethical, the ethical treatment of workers and whatever along a product line. And chocolate is known to be, a big offender in this space.
Interesting. Ow. Ooh, Charlie horse.
Drink your water. Stretch it out.
Trying. It's not doing anything. Drinking so much water.
So, so that basically means that we have made a choice to buy this chocolate because it was cheaper than the other chocolate. Maybe we just like it or whatever. You like chocolate, whatever. But we both know that it's not fair trade, and that means that there's a high likelihood that chocolate bar supports child labor in the Congo or wherever your cocoa beans came from. And he's like, and I think he kind of knew where this was going. I said, okay, so here's the deal. You may seem like a really, really great guy in your own mind, but if that kid who's harvesting your cocoa beans knew that you were over here sitting in your very nice house with your nice cars and eating your chocolate, full well knowing what it cost him, do you think he would think that you're a really, really great guy? And the reality is, no, he wouldn't. Of course he wouldn't, right? If he saw the life that you live and how you allocate your finances and your time to helping others or not helping others, and the choices that you make on even these micro levels of buying your chocolate or your t-shirt or your whatever, right? Knowing what it cost another human being and just not really caring, because the chocolate dealers of the world, the chocolate companies of the world know that if they switch to fair trade, it's going to increase the cost of their chocolate by, 200%. And you won't pay for it at that price. And I won't pay for it at that price. In fact, if we had a choice, you and I both would probably still pick this one. So who gets to pick who's a good person, who's not a good person? Isn't it just a matter of perspective? And if we could bring that kid over here and sit down and have this conversation, I think he'd have some pretty choice words for you standing here telling the world that you're a good person. And I'm not saying that I'm a good person and that I'm better than you because I make more ethical choices or whatever. you eat vegan, so all of a sudden you're, the best person on earth. Not at all. The point is that we have to admit that we are not, and that we need a savior. And getting to that point requires humility, and it requires you to recognize that we are not our own God, and we can't think our way into being good enough to judge the whole world and say, I'm good enough, I get in. You're good enough, you get in. Those people over there are not good enough, they don't get in. Who gets to make that choice? And if you're doling out justice, what does justice look like? Shouldn't there be a penalty? And who gets to decide what that penalty is and who pays the price? So I think that the idea that we can just get moral enough that we can the idea that
good, we are inherently good.
Yeah, that we are inherently good is wrong. We're not. I love my kids. They're not inherently good. I love them. I die for them. And I tell them, you are good kids. They are good kids. They're good kids. But on a deep spiritual level, on a carnal level, human beings are who we are. And we have to admit that great evil exists in parallel with great light and great love. And we are carriers of both. And so being a Christian means exploring the love and the light and allowing Jesus to diminish the darkness and the sin and the evil in our lives. And only he is capable of doing that. But admitting that is a challenge. For me it was a challenge, when I was in my 20s. And all of a sudden, wanted to own my faith. It takes a lot of humility to admit that I'm not good enough, and I never will be. And I need a savior. I need a savior. Those are hard words for a lot of people to say,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that I had this thought that it's kind of funny how you're a pretty conservative guy, but you're also self-aware of where you buy your chocolate from.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you are. Are you a bit of a minimalist?
Oh man. I mean, it depends on which slice of the pie you look at, right? So I got a bunch of tattoos on my arms, spent a lot of money on that. Could have saved a lot of orphans with that money.
Sure, you could have.
So every decision you make, you can parcel it up that way. It's like this scene in Schindler's List, at the end when he's walking around, he takes off his ring. He's like, that could have gotten another 3 kids or, something like that. And weighing his life after all the good that he had done.
I don't think I've ever even watched that movie.
It's tragic but beautiful. It's a great movie. Everyone should watch it.
I know the premise of it because a comedian said this joke. And I'm going to repeat it. His name's Anthony Jeselnik.
Okay.
Some of the darkest humor that you'll ever listen to.
Right.
I think it's sometimes healthy that Christians just go listen to some comedians like this that are just so...
We need to take ourselves less seriously, don't
dark.
We
yeah.
do.
And he goes... brought up his mother. And first he tells this joke about how his mother is a horrible person. Just absolutely terrible. No, he brings that up after bringing up how she's absolutely obsessed with, what was her name? Queen Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got pictures of her all over her home. Just pictures of her all over her home. So obsessed. After the car accident.
Oh, Princess Diana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Oh, jeez.
His
so
delivery.
Pics of the car accident. Yeah.
Princess Diana.
Right.
Obsessed, because there were people so obsessed with her, and his delivery is just so. But then he brings up, my mom is a horrible person. She's a Holocaust denier. I'm gonna butcher this, but he says she's a Holocaust denier, and I don't know if you know what that is, but it's the worst thing that you can be. it's somebody who doesn't believe that the Holocaust happened. And so what we had the rabbi come. We had an intervention with her. We had the rabbi come in. We all shared with her, we had her watch Schindler's List. And by the end of it, she believed in the Holocaust, and she did a complete 180. Now, my mom believes in the Holocaust that happened, but she can't believe it only happened once.
Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez.
So if you want some really dark humor, Anthony Jeselnik is got to be.
He's walking the line, man.
He's pretty clear. He's extremely atheist. He says it, but I don't know now though. If you say you're atheist on a stage and you're playing a part, how true can that be?
Yeah, I think
can you be a creative individual and just.
Yeah, I think in general, comedians shouldn't be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Right, that's a tongue-in-cheek joke, right?
Yeah.
They shouldn't be taken seriously because they're comedians. Everything about them is a joke. It shouldn't be taken.
They are the Joker.
That's right. They shouldn't be taken seriously. Whatever they say on stage should not be taken seriously.
Yes.
It's a joke. So who knows? Who knows?
That's a topic we could dive into. Is just like the whole this idea that can you read your Bible and can you listen to Anthony Jeselnik spouting off the story of his grandmother getting him a Bible for after he graduates high school, and working it up to this whole entire climax of finally his grandmother. The whole thing, you got to just listen to it.
Is it on Netflix or something?
It's on Apple Music.
Okay.
Or on Apple Music.
All right, I'll check it out.
I found out about comedians on Apple Music, and it just absolutely rocked my world. Because sometimes I just don't feel like listening to music.
Yeah.
And and I took off podcasts on my phone.
Okay.
Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's my phone is about pretty dry boned. To just access to internet, gone.
Huh.
So
interesting. Cool.
So I so I'm like, wait, I need to hear somebody talk. So the Apple Music, it gives you the option to be able to listen to comedians.
Nice.
So I've listened to Joe Rogan, stand up, Dimitri Martin, Anthony Jeselnik, Tom Segura, Ari Schaffer.
Yeah. I don't know him that well. Bill Burr, he's one of my favorites.
Bill Burr.
He's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
Well, you'll find that Bill Burr isn't actually that funny once you start listening to these other guys.
These other guys?
I like Bill Burr. I like Bill Burr a lot, and I listened to Bill Burr, and he's also he had his own podcast for a while.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. And so I would listen to his podcast every now and then.
Cool.
But you find out Bill Burr isn't the funniest after you. There's this one guy, I can't think of his name. He's a real big Italian guy. Joey Diaz. His name's Joey Diaz.
Okay.
And he tells his whole entire life story. And when I talk about his whole life story, he grew up in New Jersey, and he moved from New Jersey to Colorado, Steamboat Springs, Colorado, which is where I went to college, right? Crazy. He goes there. He grew up in a coke neighborhood. He started doing coke whenever he was a kid, and then he went over to Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and he starts dealing drugs and stealing. Oh, he knew how to pick a lock. Basically, he waited until everybody had left for work, and he'd go around, and it was when those new locks came out where you could. But It's less of a comedic, and it's more of just like him telling his story.
Right. But he's just a funny guy.
Yeah, he calls it the testicle. Tested. Let's get this very clear here. Joey Diaz. Joey Coco Diaz. Where did they go? Oh my gosh, I think that they might have taken them off. Wow. Yeah, you can't listen to them. It was like testicle testimonies or something.
No kidding.
And there was 5 albums of him just kind of telling his story, his life story.
No kidding. And they're not there.
Now we got that one, which I'm not going to say out loud.
Gotcha.
but that's him.
I mean, that's both atrocious and really funny. Got it. It looks like a soprano.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, anywho. So you asked me why I do this. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to kind of figure it out because I haven't done one of these in a while. The last one was with he actually texted me today. I should text him back. My buddy now I look like a jerk.
Just no. Go ahead, text him.
Jason. No, not that I'm texting while I'm recording a live podcast with you, but because I couldn't think of his name. But I should. I'm gonna say recording my testimony. But no, I met him at the place I volunteer at down there at Hope Faith.
Oh, nice. Yeah. My brother-in-law used to work there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in charge of their like outreach programs or something for a long time.
Yeah. I would like to. Oh, I met this guy at church today. He apparently works with Christian entrepreneurs.
Well,
never had anyone like turn and meet, shake my hand and like talk to me at that church.
What was his name?
Ralph.
Ralph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have his card here.
Yeah, he's Yeah, I know Ralph. This is gonna.
Did I show you my card?
Is this?
That's my card.
Oh, that's slick.
Well, it wasn't cut correctly, but
it's
nice. Supposed to look like a Polaroid picture.
All right, let me see.
But this is.
Join the movement Agora Enterprise, Ralph Metzger, Chief Innovation Officer. So Ralph.
You know him?
Works for my dad.
Oh, what?
Yeah, Agora is a ministry that my dad started.
No way.
Yeah. And so they work together. My dad is in Africa right now doing business's mission.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Ralph's going on this trip or not.
No, he is.
He is?
Yeah, he said that he's leaving like this Friday.
Oh, cool.
I tried squeezing in a meeting. I was like, dude, I didn't say dude, but I said, sir. Sir.
Mr. Ralph.
Mr. Ralph.
Yeah.
I am free all week long.
Nice.
Like, let's find a time.
He's a good dude. He's a good dude. Ralph is great.
He said he'll be gone for a month and a half or something.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad's been gone for like 2-3 weeks. He'll be gone for about another.
But he's in Africa right now training entrepreneurs.
Yeah. About twice a year. That's what he does. That's his ministry.
Oh, yeah. We just opened up a can of worms.
Yeah. So he's a businessman.
Yeah.
And, owned and operated successful businesses on 2 different continents in 2 different states, and, one in Wales, one in England, one in St. Louis, one in Miami. So he's got some business savvy for sure.
Yeah.
And then and so now he's doing it, to help entrepreneurs in developing countries, specifically Christian entrepreneurs. And so why Christian entrepreneurs? Why not everybody? Well, because there's a mandate, a biblical mandate for you to be generous.
Yes.
And that's been kind of a sort of scarlet thread in every one of my dad's companies, is that he's always used the profits to help others and to help further the advancement of the kingdom
Sure.
So, to help build hospitals.
That's what I told people for a while.
Whatever.
Whenever they ask me, why do you do this podcast? I'm like, to further the kingdom.
Yeah.
Just tell them that.
Great. That's good enough.
Don't ask me anything else. I don't know.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So he and I, back to Miami. Yeah. All right. So I'm in Miami now.
Okay.
And so this is going to segue into me working for my dad in one of his businesses. So we moved to Miami, and I get a job as a stockbroker in training at the age of 19, and I get my license. And there's no 19-year-old has any business telling anyone else what to do with their money in stocks. But that was what I did.
Did you have a deeper voice? I mean, like.
Then I had a British accent.
You have a little bit of it. Oh, yeah.
So we already covered that. So it was a piece of cake. Give me your money. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I'm like, sure. No, but it was very kind of boiler room-esque, right? This was a shady kind of company. So anyway, I was 19, and I saw the wheels coming off the bus of this company that I worked with, a small little company on Brickell Avenue in Miami. And I'm new to Miami. I was still trying to figure things out. And my first career job is with a shady stockbroker company.
Yeah.
And so one day the owner of the company comes in to us, and he's like, all right, guys, we got a couple of guys from the SEC here, Securities and Exchange Commission. They regulate all brokerage companies in the country. And they're just going to be hanging out doing like a routine sort of, checking our books and stuff. So, should be in and out within a couple of days. So a week goes by, they're still there. 2 weeks go by, a month goes by, and they meet with us all again. It's no big deal. They're just helping us tidy up a few things and blah, blah, blah. Another month goes by. These guys have set up an office within our office, and they're plowing through absolutely everything. I'm like, this is not a routine thing. And I've heard a lot of rumors about some shady stuff going on behind the scenes at this company that I work for. So I happened to be at Burger King for lunch one day by myself. And I see the two investigators that have been camped out in our office for 3 months having a burger. So I just cozy up next to them. At this point, am I 20? I might be 20. And I cozy up next to these guys. I'm like, hey, so, how's it going? We kind of shoot the breeze for a bit.
How's it going?
Yeah, that's right. Enjoying my chicken sandwich. And I'm like,
chicken sandwich.
I'm like, look, just level with me. Do I need to be looking for another job? And they were like, look, we're not supposed to talk about the investigation, but off the record, just man to man, get the heck out of there as quickly as you can.
Oh my
And so I was like, done. I took my next paycheck and left a resignation letter, and I got out of there. And
the owner of that place is probably still in prison.
I don't know what happened to it in the end, but I got hired by another brokerage company at the other end of the street, within a quarter mile of this other place.
Oh, so I'm stockbroker at another place now.
At another place.
It's kind of like being a server at a restaurant. Is that like you're like, yeah, I have experience.
Exactly.
Like I know what I'm getting myself into.
Serve enough investment advice. No, but this was a legit company. It was the oldest stockbrokering company in the state of Florida. And I think they hired me because they thought I might be the youngest stockbroker in the state of Florida. So they're like, isn't that cool? Oldest thing and the youngest guy and whatever. We'll train you. Don't worry, kid. So they gave me a job, and I started working for them. And my former employer finds out about it. And the next thing I know, I've been served with a lawsuit. And I'm 19, and they're suing me for $50,000 of training and whatever other expenses incurred. And so I have to hire an attorney at 19 and fight this thing. And, my dad, helped me. He really paid for it. He helped me navigate all this. And he was like, all right, this is.
What was the angle?
It was that I had signed an employee contract, and in there it said that if within my first 2 years of gaining my license, I went to work for another brokerage company, I would reimburse them for $50,000 of training expenses. And it was a clause in the employee manual. So, But
you could basically say that they
were getting shut down.
Yeah.
They were doing illegal stuff, and my name and reputation is going to be tarnished. Not to mention that it's a no compete clause,
which means that
it means so and no.
I gotta sell these penny stocks.
Right. No compete clauses never hold up in court.
Oh yeah.
Because you can't prevent someone from working legally.
Sure.
You can't say you cannot go and work over here or
Yeah.
whatever. And what they were asking for reimbursement for training expenses was just egregious, $50,000. I mean, come on.
At that time, it was 100,000.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah,
or this was like
this
worth...
was like 2000. This was like the year 2000. So yeah, so it's been it was
roughly
a lot
it would
of
be
money.
like 80,000-90,000 today.
Most likely something like that. So it was just an absurd amount of money, as if they spent that on my training, which
Sure.
was really, here's a book, study it, go get your license, and then
Yeah.
So I mean, even if you tripled my salary and all of my commissions earned, I wouldn't.
You're not gonna get your money.
No.
No. Were you selling penny stocks?
No, we were selling legit stocks.
Like what stocks?
The first stock
Did you sell any Apple?
No, I didn't. But there was the top selling broker in our office traded Apple options. That was all he traded, just Apple options, and he crushed it. Just made a killing.
He's got to be a billionaire today.
I mean, he's I'm sure doing just fine.
Because it used to be, I looked at it the other day, it was $1 in like the 80s, somewhere around that. And then it's now like $365. So like,
well, yeah,
$1 became $365. $10 at a zero.
Yeah, well, and I wonder how many times they split the stock, right? So if the price of a stock gets too high, that you start weeding out investors who can't afford one share, then you can split the stock. You can double the amount of stocks that you offer and then cut the price of the stocks in half. So if you own 100 shares, now you own 200 shares, but the actual price of the stock has just gone down by 50%. So the value of the company is the same. Your investment value is the same, but now it's a more accessible price point.
Oh,
so you knock
really?
the stock down.
Oh, it's kind of like gambling, like whenever you split the cards.
Exactly right.
Huh.
So you can do that. You can do a stock split. And so, yes, it's gone from $1 to $300, but it's probably, I don't know if they've split. I'm sure they have.
Yeah.
And they've probably done that at least 2-3 times. It's more like going from $1 to $1,000, not $1 to $350.
I have been getting, I get my news from my stock app. I'll kind of just like go through my top stories and I'll go through that. I have been, I would love to be able to hop into it. I just don't have the capital. I don't have the money to do it. You have to it's like I'll go to the casino and I'll spend, last time I went to the casino was Reno. Not this past winter, but the winter last winter. And I walked in there with $100. And by the way, all their tables are $25 minimum, and it's so stupid. Or at least all the ones that they told me were there. So I had to sit down at that. So I ordered a drink, put $25, lost it. Put another $25, by 50, back up. All right, put 25 down. Okay, lost it. Screw it. Let's put 50. I lost $100 before my drink even got back to me. So
expensive drink.
So I have and yeah, it was $100 and it was a story to tell, $100 in Reno. Yeah. But I've got $100 to put into this, and so I've got this penny stock that I've been watching, and as soon as I feel okay, this is it, I'm gonna put $10 in it or $100 and then watch it go. But it's this drone company.
Oh, the drone company.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe you can kind of tell me what it looks like, but they used to be.
Jeez, this is going back almost 20 years. I haven't done stocks in forever, and I never did penny stocks. So this is what I know about. I'm going to tell you everything I know about penny stocks in about 30 seconds, because that's how limited my knowledge is. They are Drone Delivery Canada Corp. So they're a Canadian-based company trading on what? Oh, the penny stock market. All right, so
there's a penny stock market.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It used to be called the Pink Pages, I think it was. This was back when you had to get your stock info from the
Printouts.
Yeah, from the Financial Times.
Yeah.
And the Pink Pages were all the penny stocks. So
Yeah.
you just pull those out, and there they all were. So anyway, that's what we used to call it, the Pink Page or the Pink Stocks or something like that. Anyway, so what makes the difference between a penny stock and a non-penny stock? Well, for a penny stock to grow significantly, either some crazy rumor happens that just drives people, like all of a sudden they get crazy press for something that's good press.
Mm-hmm. Apparently that happened right there.
That's what it looks like, right? Something happened right there to cause this spike. Or they get bought by another company. That's the best case scenario.
Yeah, like that merger that happened with Sprint and their stock prices doubled.
Yeah, I mean,
overnight.
Anytime there's a merger and you can invest in the smaller of the two companies, you're going to be great.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Like
pretty much.
Sprint was at 4, and then now it's like at 8.
But you need to own it before that news gets out.
Clearly, yeah.
Right. So
that's like Nintendo dropped that Pokemon Go. Everybody played Pokemon Go. Everybody was talking about it. Oh my gosh! And you go and you look at it and you're like, oh, why didn't I think to just? Why didn't I just? Throw $100 on that.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of gambling. When it's not gambling, I think that going into Reno with $100, knowing I'd probably lose it. Okay.
It's entertainment. You're paying for entertainment.
Yeah.
You're not trying to actually increase your net worth.
But I will say this. I told myself if GoPro dropped below $4, I'd throw some in that. I think GoPro is going to be something that is going to catch people by surprise. People aren't going to stop videotaping themselves anytime soon.
GoPro is trading at
it's $4.30 right now, or $4.50, $4.05, $4.05.
Cool. I wonder what their
peak was $85.
Oh man.
Yeah, it just went.
Yeah, why? What happened?
It was 2014 that it dropped.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you why. So in 2014, that would have been, would that have been, the Winter Olympics would be in 2016, right?
Mm-hmm. No, that was the Summer Olympics. So yeah, 2014 would have been the Winter Olympics.
Okay. So it spiked for the Winter Olympics. And then that popularity went down.
Interesting. Well, I don't know. I look at their history of earnings, and so
Also, Best Buy, they probably put way too many of those stupid marketing stands in Best Buy, and Best Buy is kind of going downhill too.
Yeah, maybe. Look at what they project their earnings to be and whether or not they hit it. So was the Best Buy thing, did it pay off or not? Well, you'll know because they'll either hit their earnings or they'll come close or they'll miss them entirely.
Yeah.
And so you can get that by, digging in there and finding your research, or you could call them and just ask them for an investment package. They usually have them. They'll just send you one.
Really?
It'll talk about, a lot of the time it'll show you their earnings over the last however many years. And,
Well, I've got like 3 beefs that like, if I can iron those out, one being under $4. Number 2 is that the correct vlogging camera. They're almost there. They just released one that is, they're on the right path to being a good vlogging camera. But number 3, I don't know. I forget. But that's our segment on stocks. Thanks for tuning in.
That's right.
They intrigue me. They really do. I'm very interested in just kind of like, because I heard Kanye and Lil Wayne drop a line about a pair of shoes, stilettos, a specific brand. And I was like, I wonder if they're public. So I get on there and I go to that year that they rapped about it, and sure enough,
yeah,
spike. I should have a different sound for whenever there's a spike up because it's the same as the going down.
Weep.
So this used to have cigars.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so like I would put them in there, and then when I have guests like this, I would go, "Would you like a cigar?"
Nice.
They would be in there. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's unfortunate because I know you smoke cigars, haven't you?
Yeah, I do. I mean, not tons, but yeah. I smoked cigarettes for like 10 years. Part of my my black sheeping in the UK.
Yeah.
I picked up smoking at the age of like 15. And
did you drink? I mean, you could drink at 15, couldn't you?
Well, no. I mean, legally you drink at 18, but it's the UK. It's drinking's part of the culture, and so everybody starts drinking at like 16. So I smoked pretty heavily for about 10 years, and then finally kicked it in my mid 20s. And then in the last few years, so my dad smoked cigars, and I always loved, smoking cigars. But after I quit smoking, I just quit everything for a long time, and just in the last few years, started smoking cigars. But I've put rules and parameters around how frequently I can do it because I'm really nervous that I would like crack the door open to my cigarette habit.
The Nuremberg cigar trials.
Yeah, that's
you put
that's
very
right.
restrictions.
I put some rules in place.
So do you inhale? Is that
no.
You don't. So that's one of your rules. Is that?
Yeah, that's one of the rules. And it's a big hand rolled cigar. You can't inhale that. You'll die.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be inhaled. It's just supposed to be enjoyed.
Oh man, I've been smoking Black and Milds and just.
Yeah, I mean that's just a cigarette. It's
a pack of cigarettes. I'm pretty sure that one of them is like equivalent to a pack of cigarettes.
Probably. I mean, it's. But it's
hey,
more than one cigarette.
Sometimes, guys like me, you gotta smoke a whole pack of cigarettes in one sitting.
Sometimes you do. It does wonders for your anxiety, and
it does. It does. It's bad though. I've had 3 Black and Milds. I impress myself with how much I can torture my body. Like smoking 3 Black and Milds in one day. I think I go and visit my buddy. I'm going to see him next week. Big YouTube guy. He's kind of a piece of why that's like inspired me to do something like this.
Cool.
Anyway, he and we smoke Black and Milds like crazy. I'm telling you, like, and I'll let him know. I'm coming down.
He'll stock up.
I'll stop. Well, here's the thing: is you won't know that. Nobody will tell you this except for me, and Scuba is his name. Is that you can't buy 5 packs of Black Mild Jazz wood tips in Kansas, but you can in Missouri.
Okay.
So I'm always like.
Okay, so you got to stock up.
Yeah.
Got it.
I will. I'll get you. We'll get some.
Got it.
We'll get some 5 packs, and I'll come down there, and we'll go through like 10 in a day, like between both of us. Can you imagine smoking 10, like 5?
That's a lot, man.
Black and Mild cigars. But we do it. Why? Why do we? It's like
something you do.
It's almost like a ritual,
Yeah. Yeah, well, like my younger brother now. So I also have a younger brother. I haven't even talked about him, but he's coming into town next week. And when he does, we'll smoke a couple cigars together.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of our things.
Is he getting? Let's get him to climb.
Yeah, so he got me into climbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. So he joined the Navy. We were roommates together in Miami, and then he joined the Navy.
So you have a smart older brother and a badass younger brother.
He is a badass. He's great.
Yeah.
And he and I are very similar in a lot of ways. Where, we have, I think, a lot of the same sort of skills. And I don't know. He's great. He's great. Now, he's a lot bigger than me. He's 6'1" or 6'2". He's
because you're dude. What? You're 5'2", 5'3". Yeah, not that. Don't hurt me.
I'm 5'9". I'm 5'9". That's average. It's average.
Yeah.
Average height. There's a guy I work with, my boss, Trace. He's also 5'9", and he's always like, yeah, I mean, a number of times he's pulled me aside and be like, that when a 5'9" guy says, yeah, I'm 5'9", you're not 5'9". You got to take off 2 inches. Like, we're all doing it. So, like, we're all lying about it. We're all actually 5'7", but we think like 5'9" is somehow better than 5'7". And well, I'm like, no, I'm legitimately 5'9". He's like, no, you're not. No, you're not.
Do you know how tall I am? If you were to guess.
5'9".
My personality is a 5'9", but I don't know. I was trying to do the Sam Ryan thing, but I'm 5'11" and 3/4.
So you're 6 feet.
I mean, it's like the 5'9" of like of right. Like it's like, you know what I mean?
Just say you're 6 feet. Just do it.
I do, but I feel like I'm lying. It's like, yeah, with my Vans on.
Right. 6 feet with my Vans on.
Yeah. I'm like 6'1" with my dress shoes on.
That's funny. Well, so I think it's better to be shorter than taller. Because for taller people, now, there's a point at which this breaks down. This argument breaks down. Like, once you get too tall, then this totally falls apart. But when you're like 6'1", 6'2", life comes a lot easier for you than when you're like 5'6", 5'7", right? When you're walking, you don't take as many steps. When you're reaching for things, it's not as far out of your reach. You just don't have to work that hard. Life just kind of comes to you a bit on a silver platter. But when you're shorter...
We're talking about privilege here.
We're talking about high... No, I'm not...
Oh, no, I'm diving... No, this is 100%. This is real. This is real. I know what you're talking about.
So when you're younger... Yeah. Or when you're smaller...
Yeah.
You got to work harder.
Yeah.
So it builds character.
Sure.
So you get tough.
Yeah.
And you learn how to hold your own as a shorter person.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's why you want to be... If you got to choose to be tall... or short.
Sure, you want to be short.
You don't want to be too short, and you don't want to be too tall.
Yeah.
Right? Because obviously, like, there's a point to where
I think
when you're 6'6" and you're getting on a plane, you're like, life sucks for me, and the like 5'6".
When you're looking for shoe sizes too.
Yeah, that's
Here's the beauty. So I went to REI today. I'm trying to get some new climbing shoes.
Yeah, did you pick some out?
So they had some 5'10s up there.
Cool.
Don't ever go to REI. Their service is, and I was reading it on the drive. Also, don't read Yelp reviews and drive. But
that's good advice.
Yes. So I used to. This is kind of funny. So you know how like I've like annexed my. Maybe that's not the right word, but got rid of like pretty much all my apps.
Mm-hmm.
I kept Yelp, and so if you don't have Snapchat, you tend to get on Facebook. If you don't have Facebook, you tend to get on Instagram. You don't have Snapchat and Facebook. If you don't have Snapchat, Facebook, and Instagram, you get on Yelp and you just start reading reviews. There's some really good ones on there. And while you're pooping, you just scrolling through the Yelp
some
reviews.
Reading material.
Yeah. Here's a fun. I gotta share this with you, but I can't forget about this REI thing.
Okay.
I tell you, I also drank a Mountain Dew at 5 o'clock. Not good. I recommend that to nobody. I'm gonna be up till like 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe.
That's all right. But making music, doing vlogs,
doing something.
Go for it. Vlog about making music.
I'm vlogging about music.
2 birds, 1 stone. I like it.
I was streaming for a while, live, like making music and streaming, like cool. As I produced. But turns out there's not much of a market. You got to have a name for yourself before you start streaming.
I'm sure.
Like clearly Joe Rogan was on Fear Factor.
Right.
But anyway, so we have 2 things right here that I got to share with you. REI sucks, customer service. So this is the benefit of having a size 8 shoe, is that the display shoes are usually either like a 9 or an 8.
Yeah, I'm a 9.
Yeah.
It's easy to find. I can order shoes online. They always fit perfect.
Yep. That they have they always... here's the thing too, is like, oh, we don't have that shoe size. That doesn't happen to me.
Yeah.
Because the display shoe is my shoe size. So
Right.
I'll just walk home with a discounted shoe.
Right.
Because I always get that discount. It's on display.
Yeah.
Like,
take 20%
it's a little
off.
scuff right here and here.
Yeah.
Like, give me a discount. So anyway, I go to REI to find these climbing shoes. There's a 7.5 in there, and there is a 9. Try on the 9. Clearly the 9's too big. 7.5 is just like almost perfect. But on Amazon, you can get them for 8. They don't sell the 7.5, but they sell an 8 for like $30 cheaper.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, so I've like determined of that. Now, that was the lame story. The other one was something else. I totally oh yeah, Yelp reviews. You'll love this.
Right.
You'll love this story. So I pride myself a bit on first dates. I think first dates are great. It's an opportunity to show what a creative individual you are.
Sure.
You know?
You're on your best behavior. So are they.
Yes.
You look and smell better than you ever will.
Yeah.
Right? It's a facade, but whatever.
Like,
yes.
Like if you fart before your date, you run back and get in the shower. Just
that's right. Gotta be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You put double the amount of deodorant on.
Yep. You think of interesting things to talk about. I mean, yeah. You are your best version of you on a first date.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you can strategically plan these dates to where they're. Except the thing is that I don't like to plan dates. They happen. Well, we're gonna do this because I'm a creative guy. So this girl I'd known and met, and she was cool, and like I was like, we're gonna go on a date. So we go on a date, and the date is this. And this is whenever I was super into Yelp. I had all the other apps, but I still knew that like pooping and reading Yelp reviews is like
it's the best.
This
combo.
is an American pastime about to be. So we went to like taco places, taco locations like that sold tacos, and we got one taco from that place.
Nice.
Each sat down, and I also walked her through this. This is what we're gonna do.
Right.
Talk to you like it was her. Hey, thanks for going on this date. It's gonna be fun. I got this idea that we'll go to every taco place in like a 5-mile radius, and we'll order a taco, sit down, have a good meal, and at the end of it, and you can look this up on Yelp, we will rate them on customer service, the taste, and the atmosphere.
I like it.
And so we did this. We go to the first place. It's kind of like one of those taco joints where you just walk up to the counter. It's not a Taco Bell. These were,
Right, legit taco.
Yeah.
With taco in the name.
Yeah.
Taco Republic.
No Taco
something.
Bell.
Right.
No
Right,
Taco
right.
Republic even. These were
nice.
like, just like, this was down in Kansas, I think. So.
Nice. Legit little taco stands.
Yeah. Well, there was the first one that we went into was kind of like but it was good.
Yeah.
And the customer service was great. They came and picked up our plate, even though we ordered one taco each, and we had water to drink. And so we took the waters, left the place, and we got in my car, and we kind of like together we discussed what could we say here? 4, 5, 3. It was best of 5. So then we go to this next place, which is a nicer place. Like the first place was an asshole. Like,
got it.
So like the customer service, like we're like, wow, this is like cool. Definitely
Right.
5 on that.
Right.
The quality of food, like 4, 3 maybe. So we go to this other place where you would think that like this is you sit down, this is a nicer kind of. First of all, have you ever had a server or a hostess that just like says, yeah, follow me? They don't look at you. They don't make eye contact with you. And they just kind of like, they call you off like party 2, whatever. And then they just start walking.
Not even checking to see if you're behind them.
Yeah, just like.
I don't care.
Side note, I went to an Olive Garden. They did the same thing, except there was another one that was also walking. And so I'm following her. And this other one had stopped right there. And then like.
You end up following the wrong way.
I'm like, and I turn. Good thing my uncle, he's not a walker, and so he stopped, and then like I turn around and I'm like, oh. Anyway, so we get to this restaurant, sit down, and we bring our waters too, right? So the hostess said like the waitress will be here in a minute or something. It took her like 5 minutes. 10 minutes maybe. Felt like 20 minutes to get there. And we ordered 1 taco each. And she asked, like, do you want anything to drink? And we're like, well, we've got waters. And she was like really rude about it and was like, it's policy that you put them in our cups. So like she brought us empty cups and like we had to pour them. And she was just an absolute just
not nice person.
Not nice lady. We ended up getting up and walking out of that place. Didn't eat the tacos. Just walked out. Gave them the worst Yelp review ever.
Yeah.
And
I tell you, customer service goes a long way.
Yeah.
I hate poor customer service. It drives me nuts. Yeah. It's so easy to just be a nice person. You know what I mean?
I don't know if I know what you mean because there are times that I have
trouble being a nice person.
Just absolutely, yeah, a troubled time. I was a server. Did you ever serve?
I was at a pub in Wales.
In Wales?
Yeah.
At 19?
No, younger. How old was I? 17? Yeah, 17.
I like some chips and fish.
Waiter at a pub. It's called the Old Cottage Inn. Would walk there from my house.
Is that real?
Yeah, the Old Cottage Inn in Thornhill, Wales. Check it out.
The Old Cottage in Wales.
Yeah, Wales, maybe
UK?
Thornhill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just type that in maps. The Old Cottage Inn. Is that it?
Let me see it. Get some pics. That's it. That's it. Oh, they haven't changed anything. They put a guard around the fire. Somebody fell in there.
There's a cat here.
On the bar. Gosh. Sitting on the bar. A cat sitting on the bar. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, man.
This is it.
What is that?
Vampire blood.
That is. Yeah. That was so I had a paper route. That was my first ever quote unquote job. This was my first ever real job. First ever job that I paid taxes. That was it.
At Ye Old Cottage Inn.
Ye Old Cottage Inn. That was it. Right there. I was not a very good server. There's this I was not a very good server. I should probably take back that comment I made.
You weren't a good server?
No, I was not. I tried to be. I was just 16 years old.
Here's a quick little server story. Is I worked at the first place that I ever served was two years after. I might have told you this, but 2 years after I had surgery on my shoulder, my labrum, and I still can't.
Oh, you can't hold the thing.
I can. It's just I can only go so far. So if I were to take said drink off of the 8 of other drinks, and you were over yonder, the farther that I reach, the more that you have to turn your hand this way, right?
Right.
The farther that I go. Now, I was not even capable of really doing it. Like, I should not have been. There's this a group of Asian family of 6, 7, and there was a autistic boy that was here, and then there was a grandmother of 70, 80 years old here. I spilled these drinks all over the table, and I have never seen it's move so quickly and just bolt out there. And I throw my hands down on the table and stop everything. But I've never seen Asians move so quickly in my life. I'm not just talking the gal and the stick, but they just went.
They were out of there.
Yeah.
Nice.
They were so sweet afterwards. Nice. I got fired the next week.
But
that was
there was this one time I was at Ye Old Cottage Inn, and we were doing, I don't know, I was bringing them some plate, and it had been under the heat lamps for a while, and it was just burning my hand like crazy. It was so hot. And so I get to the table, and I'm like, hey, who ordered this? And it wasn't my table. I was just helping another server.
Sure.
So I get there. I'm like, all right, who ordered this? And they're all just sort of like, la-di-dying around. I'm like, who ordered this? Come on. Like, it's burning the crap out of my hand. So finally this lady's like, oh, it's me. So I just kind of like threw it down there. And some of the food just kind of slops off the end. And then it like, as the plate comes down, it whacks her wine glass like this. And it's teetering and it's going over real slow. And so I grab it like this. I just went bam and caught it and went, whoa. And it's all sloshing around my fingers. And I just went, oh man, that was a close one. And just walked away. I didn't even think like my whole fist was inside her glass of wine.
And then you just put it back?
And then I just put it back on her coaster, shook my hand like on the table, wiped it on the tablecloth. Oh man, that was close. And then walked away.
Oh geez, sorry about that.
Yeah, because they were mostly Irish in Wales. Oh man,
isn't that true though that they the English hate the Irish? They don't really get along.
So the UK is funny. There's Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland. That makes up the UK, and then there's
Southern Ireland,
the Republic of Ireland, so Southern Ireland.
Yeah, which is not a part of the UK.
Correct. And so, all right. So,
is it still like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the Republic of Ireland, I think. I'm going to speak with a lot of naivety here. And bear in mind, all of my experiences of the UK were in the 90s and 90s. Mm-hmm. So this is dated. But my understanding is everyone in the Republic of Ireland loves being part of the UK. Everyone in Northern Ireland loves being part of the UK. Everyone in the Republic of Ireland really wants Northern Ireland to be theirs, and they want to be sovereign.
Yeah.
So that's the rift. People in Northern Ireland are like, no, we're good. And people in the Republic of Ireland are like, no, you're not. You're really not good. Like, this is our country. It's one country. Yeah. How dare the English divide us and whatever. All right. So in general, the UK is a united country, right? The United Kingdom. Yeah. So when they go to the Olympics, they go as either the UK or Great Britain or whatever.
So there's Irishmen that potentially compete as...
There's people from Northern Ireland who in the Olympics will compete as British.
Okay.
As the UK. All right. But then it's united, but then within the UK, all of the other countries, so Wales is a country, but it's part of the UK. Scotland is a country, but it's part of the UK.
Yeah.
Northern Ireland is a country, but it's part of the UK. They all have their own flags, their own languages, but it's part of the UK. And then England, too. Everyone collectively hates the English, right? And the English kind of collectively hate everybody else. And there's some sort of common bond.
Because the English have the most money.
Yeah, well, and the history's not good, right? So the English invaded Scotland and just brutalized everybody, and then they did the same in Wales and Ireland or whatever.
That's so crazy.
Yeah,
and like we're over here in America, and people are like the Indians.
I mean,
we did some terrible things to the Indians.
And we did, and the UK. I mean, the history there. It's just, it's been conquered.
It's way more long. It's like long
so many times.
Yeah.
And allegiance has shifted so many times over the thousands of years that it's been around.
But it's like a group of I don't know. Maybe you know this, but. I have girls that I graduated with that are still friends with like 8 other girls that I graduated with. So and I think that they're going to be friends another 20 years.
Right.
So like, we met 5 years ago, but like now we're becoming, better buddies here and now and continue that, but like we haven't known each other for like
right. We don't have tons of history.
Yeah. So like we don't there's not a lot of beef, and it's just you and I right now.
Right.
Hopefully there's some other people that join the circle.
Sure.
Right, but it's you and I. I'd like to meet who your brother is. I'm sure that we'd probably get along pretty well if he's a
totally.
He's crazy great. Navy guy.
He's great. Yeah, he's not crazy. He's pretty chill. You'd like him.
Okay.
He's great.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll hang out.
But these high school girls that never graduated high school, like that's kind of how I see like over in Europe. It's like they've kind of been like this group of people for like going on 60th anniversary of high school.
Right.
And like America's in there like, you know, me walking in and being like, here's my third wife. And they're still like all together, just kind of like, why couldn't we be Sam's third wife? No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just getting too creative with this. It's a film I'm working on.
That's right.
I plan on doing this. Yeah.
It's all every wife represents a country.
Yes.
Got it.
Precisely. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. The UK is it's awesome. It's a great place.
Have you been back?
Not in a long time. Last time I was there, so I had a layover, like a 12-hour layover in London.
Yeah.
A few years ago. And that was the first time I'd been back since like 2002, 2003, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was cool. But I haven't really been back since early 2000s.
You gotta go back.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to go back to my hometown and, you know, retrace my childhood footsteps.
Climb.
And that would be cool.
There's some climbing spots, probably.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure there are. There are. No doubt.
Put it
Yeah,
on
that'd be cool.
Let's put that on the
to-do list.
Yeah, the jointed Jake and Sam bucket list.
Got it. Go climb.
It's interesting when you meet somebody new and you become like, is that like there's a bucket list that starts forming.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this,
sure.
It's like at some point we're gonna climb something outside.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Yeah, it'll happen. I'm sure.
And then climb in England. Let's try that.
Let's do it. Put it on the list.
Like 50.
Put it on the list.
Man, my I'm getting calloused. I didn't think that I would.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard on the hands. I got so when I started climbing, I got crazy callous, and then they kind of mellow out after a while. It's kind of weird. Your skin gets tough, but it's not like I don't know. It gets supple again, but it's still tough. But then I started working out using kettlebells recently, and dude, those things straight tore up my hands. I thought that my hands were in good like climbing condition because they get tough climbing, really tough. And you know, I remember I was helping a friend demo his kitchen, and he had gloves on and I didn't. I was grabbing splintered wood, and it was no big deal.
Yeah.
Like your hands are they're callous enough that you can kind of get away with that kind of stuff. And then I started swinging kettlebells thinking, this will be easy. And it just straight tore up my hands, man. I got a chunk out of my hand there. I've got like this callus here just tore open the other day. Like it is another level of brutality.
Well, I did lawn care, and so I came from that. And for a while but it wasn't until that 8-hour gym session that I went on yesterday. Yeah, did I tell you that?
No.
Yeah, I was in the gym for like 8 hours.
Oh, jeez. I mean, you might be overdoing it.
Well, that's the cost of like making friends with everybody in the gym.
Yeah.
Because you're leaving.
You climb with everyone.
Yeah. So I got there at like 11:30, and so I climbed for like an hour by myself, and then I went and sat down and started reading. It's like, maybe I'll see a buddy come in here and we'll go hit top rope for a little bit or something like that. Sure enough, my buddy Pico comes walking in. Pico, what's up, man? He goes, are you done? Or are you going to climb? Are you starting or what? You know, that's kind of like the lingo that happens. Yeah, you starting or finishing.
Right.
So I was like, I'm starting up again. Let's go. Let's do this. So I grabbed rental shoes, so they go back in. Then he's kind of like worn out a little bit. He wants to go work out. So I'm like, I don't really want to work out. Probably whatever. So I come walking out. Sebastian, what's up, dude?
Right. You finishing or you starting?
Yeah. I'm starting, man. Let's go.
Let's do it. I'm doing what you're doing.
Let's go. Let's do it. So then we start going, and I thought he wanted to top rope, but he was like, oh, we're going to boulder. I was like, gosh. because I can top rope all day long. I think.
Sure.
You know,
It's way less.
You
on
find
the
that
joints and the tendons.
yeah, if you're doing like a 5'8", then you're all right.
Yep.
But he wanted a boulder, so I was working on that V4, that black one where you have to.
That's one of my faves. I like it.
I like it too. I got closer, but still haven't. Not the black one that where you swing and not that one, that you still haven't done yet.
No. That's the V5.
That's the V5.
Right. The V4 on the east wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where you. Yeah. I like that one a lot. I think it's. It's funny that climbing is so like individual. Like certain climbs are just good for your body type.
Yeah.
And where you're strong, like you just feel good. Yeah. That's one where I feel easy. I feel like it should be a V2. And then I see other people grab it and it's not suited for them. And it's a struggle.
On that one specifically, it's this right here.
Gripping that here and pulling yourself into the wall.
I mean, it's
yeah.
But it's weird. It's not much chest.
Right. But your wingspan is a lot wider than mine. Yeah. So for me, I grab it and it just feels like I can grab this all day.
Yeah.
It's just the perfect amount of distance, I guess. If it was like maybe a foot, like 6 inches wider on each side, that would be real tough. But it's right in there. That's just like, man, feels good.
Boom.
But if my arms were bigger and I had to that would be tough.
So
it's funny.
I tried that one, didn't get up all the way to the top, but I did figure out some like sweet little kick under move that like springs me up. I really like the swinging of the leg and to the outside instead of the inside.
Right.
Have you ever seen something like that where somebody will swing?
What do you call it? It's like
you're supposed to do it on the inside, but instead of putting the pressure on your knees, I think is because you'll have to like kind of crank your knee and turn it in a direction that's weird, and I don't like doing that to my knees. So I'll just keep that kind of tall stance and then swing that behind me.
Yeah.
And then kind of pistol squat up with that one.
Right. Yeah, you like back step.
Yeah.
It's like that's what they.
Of course, nobody listening to this, they're gonna be like, "What the hell are they talking about?"
Sorry,
I've thought about this. Is that actually taking some
footage?
Yeah, like going and like making like a vlog.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, but I can't bring myself to it, being that guy in the gym with a video camera.
Yeah, you'd have to.
But
do it when there's no one there.
Well, in Missouri, it's a single consent as far as filming.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so I could actually bring it in there, and as long as somebody doesn't like complain, then
you'd be okay. Huh, nice.
Yeah. But I'm getting to the point where like I'm meeting so many people that I think if I bring it in, the thing is that like I'm not that great of a climber. I'm not like
right to be videotaping yourself.
Yeah, I think
you don't want that reputation.
No, especially walking into the gym and like.
Yeah.
But Sebastian is a buddy that we're supposed to get coffee on Tuesday morning. We're gonna see if he bails. I'm banking that he does. I'm banking on it.
How early on Tuesday? And what is this guy like?
I told him 6:30.
That's early.
He said, what time? Well, I asked him, hey, you want to get coffee in the morning? He goes, oh, I got school in the morning. I was like, okay. And then I was like, what about Wednesday? Because Tuesday didn't work. He had school in the morning. So I go, how about Wednesday? He goes, Wednesday will work. And I go, all right, 7 a.m. And he goes, oh. And he goes, well, we could do Tuesday in that case. I go, what do you mean? What time's class? He goes, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Dude.
That's right.
So I was like, so shoot for 6:30. If you make it by 7, that's fine. But I'll be there by 6:30. Anyway, he's V9, V10 probably, climber.
Sheesh.
Killer. 19-year-old kid.
Oh, dude, that's hardcore.
Yeah. So I'm thinking I want to like, I want to warm up the video camera in the climbing gym by, hey, maybe let's show me the different holds, like educate me. Cause I'm at that point where like I have like this, naivety to like know the questions that people ask on the computer and want to like know, like
yeah. Yeah. What's the novice climber asking?
Yeah.
When you get too good, you lose connection with that.
Yeah.
Like you forget.
And I feel like
cool.
I'm like in this very
You should do it in the cave. Have you been to the cave?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, do it in the cave. Like I used to go there because that's right next to my office.
Yeah.
I used to go there over lunch instead of driving up north.
Yeah.
And then I got burned out on it because it's kind of cavey. There's no natural light in there at all, and you do that every day for a few weeks, and you start going a little nuts. But dude, I would go in there for lunch, and it was rare that another person would come in.
Really?
It was me for like 2 hours, and I remember talking to the guy, whoever was working, and a bunch of times they would say, "Dude, you're the only person who's come in today." So you could set up whatever rig you wanted, and you wouldn't really bother anyone.
Really?
Yeah. Do the holds thing, talk through some jargon or whatever.
Holds 101.
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm I want to be able to. I want to do the
hangboard.
The hangboard. I really want to do the hangboard, but everywhere I'm seeing is like, no. Don't do it until after 2 years of climbing.
Yeah.
And I get that, and I understand that. But nobody has explained that, like, it could take like why. I haven't gotten like a why.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, what I heard was it takes a long time for your tendons to get strong enough to where you can really pull on them and not pop one.
Yeah.
And if you pop one, you're out for a long time because the recovery time on that is just outrageously low. It's like a year. You sit out for a year. So that's why everybody's super conservative with like, don't touch the hangboard until you've been around climbing for a couple of years. So I started doing the hangboard after 6 months of climbing.
Yeah.
Very like tentatively. So I would only do it like once a week. And I wouldn't do the tiniest crimp on the hangboard.
Sure.
I'd find something that would go like 2 knuckles deep maybe and start there. And I wouldn't really push it. And then the next day I would test. And a good way of testing is when you bend your finger the opposite way. If you have shooting pain, go in the opposite way. Like give it a good push. If you have shooting pain going the opposite way, then your tendons are flaring up and you need to rest them.
My right seems a whole lot better than my left.
Yeah.
Well, what are you doing? I mean, like, are you...
Yeah, just like bend them at the knuckle here, bend them there, like bend them in the sort of opposite way that you pull on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I'm all right.
Yeah. So, I mean, and don't overdo it. Give it a try. Don't go wild. Don't go on the tiniest crimp and start, like, seeing how many pull-ups you can do.
Yeah.
Your pinky will just fly off.
My biggest problem is that, like, I'll be going halfway up this V1. And I'll know it. And then I'll remember, oh, there's that cute girl behind me. Shoot. I should probably just take my legs off this wall and just climb up the rest of it. and I will do that. I will do just that. Flip my legs off and climb up that. That V1, that red one?
I don't know.
The one that has some real, just sticking out, just holds that just anybody, just cake holds.
Right. You can just.
It goes like this.
Okay.
So we're facing the green one that we were working on, that one problem.
Right.
And then if you just look to the right, the red one that I'm talking about.
I think
they're just real shelled out.
And you can just and
you can just kick those legs out.
And if it's on an incline, that looks pretty dope when you cut legs and just like muscle up on an incline. Yeah.
Yeah. But after 2.5 weeks, I'm like, don't do that anymore.
That's right.
Like, just go to top rope and just like have some fun.
Give ego a break. Give him the day off.
Yeah.
Say, ego, you're gonna stay at home today.
Yeah.
We're just gonna go and climb.
What
is it? You're gonna climb for Sam.
What is it though about like that primal? Just like you gotta be the best in the gym.
Yeah.
What is why do I have that?
Every dude has that. I don't know. It's the competitive nature.
Yeah.
That men have, and it's not. It's not
like
inherently bad until it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you don't need to be cutting feet to impress some girl. Number one, girls don't even care.
Yeah.
Guarantee it. Like my perspective on what women actually like shifted a lot when I got married.
Yeah.
And I realized like, oh man, dudes have no idea.
A guy that listens is a whole lot more like value to someone who has an awesome physique.
Right. Or a guy who like, I think girls are very intuitive.
Because you wanted to make a podcast, and so like your podcast would essentially be saying like talking to guys that are like
talking to myself
20 to 29.
Right. Talking to myself like 10, 15 years ago.
Or even 15, 16. If I were to go back in time, I would have gotten married at like 16.
You would have?
Oh yeah, just whatever. I would have told my mother and father. I would have said, "Hey, look, arrange the marriage. I want you. Look, I'm gonna give you the reins.
You guys find my wife."
Yeah. Just make sure they're nothing like you.
Oh man, you put the wrong people in charge.
I mean, like, it's either that or your friends. Here's the thing I think is so stupid. It's this idea that, like, arranged marriage is so messed up. It's so ridiculous. Every marriage is arranged.
Yeah, it is. Do you know Ravi Zacharias?
No.
This dude's brilliant. You should check him out. You'll love him.
Okay.
He's a Christian apologist.
You got to keep talking because the moment I talk, the camera shifts on me, and I've got some... Go ahead.
Business
Continue.
to take care of. Got it. So Ravi Zacharias, he's a Christian apologist, and the dude is brilliant, super brilliant, and he's spoken at some of the greatest institutions of learning around the world. He's spoken at Yale, he's spoken at Harvard, and he basically makes a case for being a Christian, and he answers the most difficult questions, posed by Ravi Zacharias.
Ravi Zacharias. Okay.
Answers the most difficult questions posed against Christianity by the brightest minds at Harvard, Yale, and Stanford, and everywhere. Very, very well-respected guy. Holds, I think, multiple PhDs.
Does he have a YouTube channel?
Maybe. It wouldn't surprise me if I'm sure he does. And he has a whole ministry. So he's got a whole slew of people now who do this with him.
Okay.
And he's getting older. But he's an Indian guy. And he was born in India, then he moved to Canada for a while. And got married, and he wrote a book that was foundational for me in my approach to marriage. So when I was dating my now wife, I was living in Haiti, working for the Global Orphan Project, who I work for now, and I had time to read books. Didn't have a TV, didn't have a lot of Wi-Fi, so I just read a lot.
You didn't have a lot of wife.
Didn't have a lot of wife.
Yet.
That's right.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And so I read a ton of books, and I was getting ready to propose. So I was like, let me just get every book on marriage and just read them all.
Yeah.
So I read like 7 books on marriage in a year, and one of the best was his, Ravi Zacharias, and it's called I, Isaac, Take Thee, Rebekah. And he takes the story of Isaac and Rebekah from the Bible, and he kind of extrapolates it. And he tells a story about his older brother who had an arranged marriage. And Ravi went up to him and was like, "What are you doing? Like, we live in Canada. We've been living here for a long time. We're a Western family now. Why on earth would you ask our parents to set you up in an arranged marriage? This old, stodgy, archaic way of doing things. Don't you want a love marriage?" And it talks about how his brother rebukes him and is like, "How dare you say that about my future wife?" And his brother basically... It boils down to his brother says, "I have already chosen to love this person." And love is a choice. It really is. At the end of the day, when you've been with this person for a few years and you've seen them at their best and at their worst, whatever you think you've cultivated in your dating relationship pales in comparison to where you find yourselves a few years into marriage.
Yeah.
So it becomes a choice, a daily choice to love someone. And so I am realizing that now and making that choice now, that whoever my parent, I trust my parents. They're smart people. They know who I am better than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to pick somebody who's going to be terrible. They're going to find someone who's really, really good.
Yeah.
So I've already chosen to love this person. And it just like totally blew Ravi Zacharias for a loop. And he then takes that story and extrapolates that and talks about love being a choice and marriage being a choice. And he said, he kind of changed his mind on arranged marriages. Now, granted, I'm sure some of them are just terrible, for status and for whatever else. But his book, using arranged marriage in the way that his older brother used it, was really beautiful. Yeah. It was really, really pretty cool.
I actually had the thought that, like, the idea, bat it down if you think it's a bad idea, but I think it's a freaking phenomenal idea. My sisters couldn't be more opposite. As far as politically, religiously, just like... they come to a consensus of watching Sam's 4-hour-long podcast, of not doing that. So I'm capable of saying this in confidence without them being like,
that they're
but it's true, and they would agree with it. But they're very polar opposites, I'd say. And so I was thinking about giving them a couple pictures of me, letting them make me plenty of fish or something. I don't know what websites there are.
Right.
But
right.
Basically them taking the reins on it. And they both receive the messages. And you write it in the bio.
Sure.
This is Allie and Megan, Sam's sisters. We're looking for someone for him. Okay. Great. And having those two just kind of like find a girl to go on a date with Sam. Like,
I mean,
could it hurt?
My wife and I were set up on a blind date.
Really?
Yeah. I think now,
So that was arranged.
I think it was kind of arranged.
Who arranged that? And is it a female or a male?
It was a married couple.
It was a married couple.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I knew the husband. My wife knew the wife.
Okay.
So I met a guy. I was new to Kansas City. I had just moved to Kansas City after leaving Miami, which is
How Jake met your mother. How I Met Your Mother.
That's right.
I can't wait till Owen watches this, and then he's going to call me up and be like, dude.
That's how. I've been trying to get out of my dad forever.
He's been telling me all these.
That's right. I went through 8
It was my
seasons.
aunt the whole time.
Oh, jeez. So I arrive in Kansas City after leaving Miami, which was we'll have to do maybe a podcast on me leaving Miami. I basically sold all my stuff, got in my car, and just drove away from Miami. I wasn't really sure where I was going to end up, but I ended up in Kansas City.
Yeah.
And I was 30 years old, just moved into my mom's basement, jobless, homeless, and, what am I going to do next? And so fatherlessness had, how do I say this in a short way? When I was in Miami, I helped plant a church in a pretty tough part of the city. And this group of young men started coming who were like late teens or early 20s. Awesome group of young dudes. I just loved them. And we became super tight. And I came to realize that a lot of them came from broken homes. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And a lot of them had absent dads. And it really broke my heart for the plight of fatherlessness and how so many social issues come from a fatherless home, right?
Yeah.
Incarceration rates, prostitution rates, gang participation, all that stuff. I mean, fatherless homes, if there's one thing we could do to radically shift culture for the better, it would be invest in dads and in getting dads to stay at home. Anyway, to not abandon their kids.
Toxic masculinity.
Yeah, right. Let's talk about what will actually help, right? Like, guys need to be a presence in the home, and not demonized and not whatever. And also, they need to do what's right. You get a girl pregnant, you got to do what's right. You have a responsibility.
Buck up. Put a ring on it.
That's right. Like, do your job. You have a responsibility.
Talked to a buddy the other day. I told it, he did that.
Got a girl pregnant and then married her?
Yeah.
Good for him, man.
Yeah. And I was like...
Love is a choice. Make the choice.
Well, in a time and age at where we're at right now is that a lot of the people, the guys that would not encourage him in that. But I was like, dude...
Sure.
Props.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do it in that, like...
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to make blanket statements, right? I don't know who this lady, what their relationship is like. Is it healthy? Is it not healthy?
But when it comes to a father, I think that you can.
You have to be a presence.
Yeah.
And you have to be as much a presence in the kid's life as physically possible. And I think that if there's an inkling that you could marry and model a healthy home in that marriage, you should do it. And surround yourself with good people who are going to help you do it. But anyway, anyway, I met these dudes, and so I started researching what would it look like for a church to engage in issues of fatherlessness. And I started exploring foster care and orphan care, and took some trips overseas to see orphanages operating and that kind of stuff, and just did research. And I got into this mode of just doing research. So long story short, I leave Miami. I'm not sure where I'm going to go, but I end up in Kansas City, staying at mom's until I figure out where I'm going next. And I'm continuing this research, and I find this organization called Go Project, the Global Orphan Project. And they're based in Kansas City, so I call them up, which is routine for me. I would do this, at least once a month, just call up an organization that did some kind of orphan care or fatherlessness ministry and interview them, just ask questions.
Yeah.
So I did that, and after I hung out with one of their guys for a while, he said, why don't you come to Haiti and see it in action? So I went to Haiti, and on that first trip to Haiti, I met this dude who later set me up with my wife. So I just arrived in Kansas City. I'm in Haiti. I meet this guy. He's a great guy. He finds out that I just moved to KC. So he says, well, when you get back to Kansas City, I want to have you over to meet my wife. You don't have many friends and whatever, but, you're a great guy. Just come on over. And I'm 30 years old, or I just turned 30. And so I go to his house, hang out with the family, tell him my story, grew up in the UK, did some church planting stuff, had a corporate career and whatever before that. And his wife says, there's a girl that you should meet that I volunteer with at a pregnancy crisis center. So she's kind of involved in similar stuff, issues of fatherlessness, and a lot of these single moms who find themselves pregnant end up there, and she helps. She's a volunteer.
Yeah.
And she grew up overseas. She grew up in South Africa, moved to the States the same year you did. Both your parents are divorced, got divorced the same year. Seems like there's a lot that you guys have in common. I think you're a good guy based on what I can tell from our hanging out tonight.
Yeah, how many interactions was it before it was like...
I mean, I met her once.
And I mean, like this guy that invited you back to his place in
we were
Kansas
roommates
City.
Together for like a week in Haiti.
Oh, okay.
And it, traveling to an extreme place like that with someone, you go deep fast. You cover a lot of ground.
Yeah.
And it's raw and it's emotional, and we shared stuff with each other that was good.
I said something that I slightly regret to a friend of mine. He's the longest friend I've ever had. And I'll say it here. Also confident that he's not going to hear it. But this is something I've been kind of tackling, is that I told him, I looked at him and I said, because we got political and we've never gone political. And I just wanted to know who he's going to vote for. And he told me that, like, you don't know politics, is pretty much what he said to me. And I looked at him and I said, I have known you longer than anyone else in my life, and I think that you know the least about me than anyone.
Oof. Yeah. I mean, that right there is true for relationships and friendships on multiple levels. Like, you can easily find yourself in a friendship that has been coasting for so long on pretty much the same level ground.
Just carnal,
just shooting the breeze, that it never
crust
goes...
of the earth.
Yeah, it never goes a layer deeper.
Yeah.
And the same is true for your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many marriages. You get in, you're super deep in the beginning, and then you get into a routine, and you just start coasting. And before you know it, you don't really even know each other that well.
Yeah.
And I mean, my wife and I talk about it a lot because it's, it's something that we're concerned about. And we know, we can feel it when there are times, and we're married, so we're comfortable talking about this stuff together. But there are times when we'll say, the last few months, it just feels like we've been roommates. We haven't really been an intimate married couple.
Yeah.
We haven't really been deep. And we need to fix that. So we have that conversation probably once a year.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I feel like, have you noticed the telltale signs of this too? Because I'm feeling it. And, so I think that's true. You can do it with your parents. Mm-hmm. How many young men, when they hit puberty and they start wrestling with,
do a little closer,
becoming a man.
Yeah.
There we go. Ooh, that sounds better. Start wrestling with becoming a man, and they've got all these big questions, and they're wrestling with biology.
Yeah.
Right? Your hormones are going crazy, and your body's doing wacky things. And they don't feel like they can talk to their dad about it. And their dads are too embarrassed or insecure or whatever to go there with their kids. Same thing. You can end up there with your parents. I think every relationship runs the risk of just staying on the surface. And some friendships, that's what they're meant to be.
Carnal.
They're just going to be that.
Yeah. But
lifelong friends shouldn't be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And basically that's I there's a part of me that regrets it, but there's also a part of me that's like, you've been living a lie for a while with this relationship with this buddy. You want it to be real. You want it to be real deep, And I wouldn't say that was entirely true, but it did have some truth to it. Thankfully, I texted him the other day, and he texted back. I almost like. Sometimes there's times in my life that there's sometimes in your life that you think that maybe you're a narcissistic, sociopathic, just psychopath, right? There's some, like, people go through that, but there's times, like, in me sharing this moment with you is that, like, no, like, I feel a little bit of remorse, but also a bit of, like, alive, in saying something so radical. To the point where it's like, may not be true, but there's an ounce of true in it, and that's just enough to, like, get your eyes a little watery,
Yeah. Well, and so what happens next will determine a lot in your friendship.
Yeah.
Because now you've got
an axiom.
That's right. Which way are you going to go?
Yeah.
Right? Are you going to, or you, I mean, both of you, is your friendship going to just continue and pretend like that conversation didn't happen or that thing wasn't said? Or is are you going to take it back? Say, I didn't really mean it.
Yeah.
Or is it going to sit and you guys are going to have to talk about it?
Yeah.
And that'll force your friendship to either come to an end or become really real.
Yeah. Yeah. And these are things that I think about. And that's kind of what I've been it's sad that it took me till 28 to, like, recognize that as
sure.
that, like, those axioms need to be set earlier. Not necessarily, like we said, there's people that you have carnal relationships with,
Sure.
Whatever. You go and climb.
Yeah.
What's up? How's it going? Dude, been working on this. Great. I saw you working on that. You did it. Good.
Right. High
cool.
five.
High five.
See you next week.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't believe whatever happened. Cool. That weather.
Yeah, that's right.
That's my worst. I can't stand that.
How's the weather?
I hate small talk so much when it's like.
Me too. I'm bad at it. I don't really know. I run out of stuff to talk about quick.
It just pisses me off whenever. So, like, it's so stupid that I get so worked up. But, like, I'll be hanging Christmas lights, or taking them down. these past 2 months. And they'll talk to me about, like, I was taking down lights at a Mexican restaurant, and I'm at the front, get this whole pole, and I'm picking up clips or whatever. And this guy, he had the audacity to look at me and go, you know, what exactly did he say? He said, oh, it's pretty cold out here, isn't it? He had the audacity to say some crap like that to me.
Right.
As he's getting out of his heated car to walk into a heated restaurant.
Right.
And I'm just thinking about, like I've been on roofs all day long, like outside, and you're gonna tell, you have that it was just a shrill in his damn voice,
right? Like I know, you and me, we're the same. Like I know it's cold out here. Do you know it's cold out here?
Like I've worked a winter day like this before in my past.
That's right.
Like shut up. Just shut up and go inside. And I do. I'm I'm a fairly nice guy to talk to, but when you small talk me, I just look at you and go, "Yep."
I mean, he didn't mean it.
No.
He didn't mean it in a negative way.
No.
Yes, I can imagine.
No, but I do wish he would go into that restaurant, get food poisoning, take it home to his children, puke everywhere, and make his wife clean it up. And okay, sorry.
That might be a bit
dark
much.
humor. I think that's changed me. You probably shouldn't listen to Anthony Jeselnik. It's bad, man. Like
it's dark stuff.
Oh my gosh, like yeah. Like Christian mothers, if they heard their son listen to this, guys.
Oh, it would be over.
Oh my gosh.
It would be military academy for everybody.
Oh yeah. Books a burning.
Yeah.
I know that comedy doesn't come in books, but how do you feel about book burning?
How do I feel about book burning?
Yeah, but wait, what's the timeline? Maybe you could answer that, and then we could close. It's about 2:50.
Sounds good.
It's 2:56.
How do I feel about book burning? Well, not sure I've been to a good old-fashioned book burning in a while. So in general, like, how do we feel about Christians burning books, right? Is that what we're talking about? Or just in general?
No. Just book burning.
Just book burning in general. All right, so like
Huckleberry
outright
Finn.
saying
Let's
these things that people have created and put into the world are so bad that we need to eradicate them from existence.
Yes.
Right? So whatever modern day version that would be. Censorship or cancel culture, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So how do I feel about it? Well, I think that
I'm scared we just like open up another 30 minutes.
What
time's your bedtime?
You?
It's 9:17.
I'm good.
Okay.
Good to go. Hey, you decide when this thing ends, man. I'm good.
Okay.
But I will take a little extra water if you got some more,
because
it's been almost 3 hours. Thank you, sir.
It's perfect pour. Do you want a full one?
No.
Okay.
You just want to pour it again, didn't you? Because that perfect pour.
Well, there was one thing that I did learn while I was serving, is that I do have a perfect pour. So, isn't that something so stupid to be proud of? Like,
hey man, you got to find ways to get by in those jobs.
I mean, I built these shelves.
I like it.
Out of milk cartons.
I think it looks cool, man. Especially
6s.
with the black background. The black background. Black background.
Yeah, I stapled that up there like that.
Yeah.
I want to just paint it. I want to get rid of actually all this and just paint all of this black.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I shared with somebody recently. They're like, "What's the difference between you doing a podcast in here in your home versus like in their home or in a library?" I've done one in a library, in a military bunker base in their dorm room.
No kidding.
Yeah. At their parents' home. But the difference is that like this is like a set. I don't want it to be a set. I'd like to like paint this all black and I don't know, hang those and anyway, book burning.
Would be cool. That'd be super cool.
Cancel culture. this is something that's
cancel culture and book burning.
We're on to.
So, yeah, oh, gosh, what do I think about it? So I am very, very pro freedom of speech. And I think that, so from the Christian perspective, Christians have to acknowledge that we don't live in a Christian world. And this is a difficult reality, I think, for a lot of American Christians to understand, because America has been a overtly Christian culture for many, many years, but it's not anymore. And so a lot of people are still holding on to this idealistic past that at one point we had all these Christian morals that pervaded our culture. And a lot of them still do.
Conservative Christianity.
Yes, yes. And a lot of them still, and it comes from Christendom viewpoint, right? Christendom being like when the power of the church is so pervasive in every part of society that it bends culture to its...
Billy Graham.
Yeah.
The time of Billy Graham.
Absolutely. And so...
where there were stadiumfuls of Christians.
And there still are, but it's way less. And the, secular culture has overtaken the United States. Well, I didn't grow up here. I grew up in a secular country.
Oh my gosh, you have like privilege points. And not just the whole 5'9" thing. But you have privilege points of being an immigrant.
Yes.
Do you realize that?
Well, so I'm American. I always was. I never gave up my American
you're English American, buddy. you ride that. You ride that one. Man.
A long time in Europe. My wife is an immigrant. She was born and raised in South Africa, moved here, got her citizenship, then we got married. But that's...
Is it weird to say that she does look South African?
To say that?
Yeah.
About her?
Yeah.
For me to say she does look South African?
She does look South African. No, for me, I'm saying that, like, I've seen your wife. She looks South African.
Mm-hmm. It's not weird for me because I understand where she came from and that kind of stuff.
But like, well, I guess maybe we should clarify she isn't black.
Yeah, she has red hair.
Yeah.
And when I lived in Haiti.
But the white people that I've seen that come from South Africa look similar to your wife.
Yeah, that's right.
So there's like...
That's right. And she does. And her dad looks very South African. He's got a South African accent. My wife, not so much. But.
It's interesting, though. I may be totally wrong on this, but... And we're so deep into the podcast that, like, these are great. I can say these things, but she has African American features on her face.
My wife?
Yes.
You think so?
No, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm saying. It just sounded so good, and so like that'd be neat. She doesn't though, does she?
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to answer. And here's some more privilege points. Here's why it's hard to answer. My job has sent me to a number of parts of Africa.
Yeah.
And I have friends in Ethiopia, in Uganda, in Congo.
Oh no, you get less. You actually, privilege points detract if you say that you're friends with people from other like countries. Like,
oh, they do?
Yeah, you're actually more of a xenophobia. Xenophobic if you point out that you have friends from other countries.
Got it. So. Well, they're not from. They live there, and I visit them in their country. It's part of my job.
Okay, in that case, you're just neutral. You're right in the neutral line.
That's fine. That's all.
We can talk about
all I ever
this.
wanted to be.
We can talk about this and still be monetized by YouTube.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. That's a lie. We've already talked about God. They won't monetize religious conversation.
No kidding.
Oh yeah. Huh. Google owns YouTube. And
hard and fast religion.
Nope.
Wow.
Do not monetize religious content.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, they
so
can. They can. They can monetize it and they can make money off of it, but you can't.
So if Joe Rogan did one podcast with the Pope, that one wouldn't bring him any money.
Yes.
In theory.
In theory, if Joe Rogan did a podcast with the Pope.
Wow.
Wouldn't.
Unless
By the way,
they
who's
just
the
talked
Pope
about. I don't know.
Because it
he's a
was
Franciscan.
Francis, and then now it's.
There you go. Google it. All right. So anyway, so I was going to say, my African friends look different in a lot of different places. So a lot. It's hard to say.
I gotta clarify that.
African American features. What does that mean?
Oh, features?
Yeah. Like, well, let's just not. Let's not. But in general, she's anyway. So what were we talking about?
African American features.
We were talking about my wife was an immigrant, and we cancel. All right, yeah. So cancel
culture, and I'm looking up the Pope.
So we're no longer, America's no longer a Christian culture. Growing up in the UK, I didn't really know what Christian culture really was. There really wasn't much of one, if any.
Pope Francis.
Yeah, there you go, Pope Francis.
He became the Pope after the other guy stepped down, who was the more conservative Pope. Pope Francis is more of a liberal-leaning. I watched the two popes. Apparently, it's super inaccurate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they didn't actually ever even meet.
Oh, no kidding.
Until after he became the Pope.
Gotcha.
So, like, all of the context of, like, I need you to be Pope.
Gotcha.
And, like, I don't want to be Pope. It's all Hollywood. So.
Got it. Well, I haven't seen it, but I heard it's good.
Yeah, it is. Don't get me wrong. Like,
I like Anthony Hopkins. He's a Welsh guy.
Yeah. I watched it with my father. He's Catholic.
Got it.
But that was the second time he watched it. I feel like I really, similar to the thing that I told to my buddy for the longest time, was whenever I told my dad that it's factually incorrect, that movie. Because he was so dead set that Francis was like the guy he saw in this movie. And I was like,
right.
No. They only play, they're actually just playing two archetypes.
Gotcha.
Very conservative, very left, and
gotcha. And how those worlds collide.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah. But the movie's phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out.
But as far as like accuracy, it's not accurate.
Sure.
It's just a radicalization of two perspectives of the Bible. And
interesting.
I mean, at one point he says that Francis, you would almost believe that he's not a believer.
Mm.
Yeah. And, but yeah. But cancel culture is real, and it's like moving fast throughout.
Yeah. And I think that from a Christian perspective, so two perspectives. From a Christian perspective, we need to recognize that we don't live in a Christian world, right? We don't. And we won't until Jesus decides to come back and make it so. Our job is to be examples of goodness and love and kindness in the world, and that the purpose of the church
kindness.
Is to be
I want to
yeah
intersect here real quick. Is when I hear the word kindness, I don't think that a lot of people know what that word is. So is it for the people who are listening, or this may be something that you didn't know? And I would love to be able to tell you what the kindness, the root word for kindness is kin. Okay, so kin being your family.
Yeah.
Treating others like your brother, or treating them like your sister. And to be kind. I saw some stupid quote outside of a middle school that kindness grows when happiness is achieved or something.
Right.
And it was just like, how do you treat your brother?
Yeah.
Like, really, how do you treat your brother pretty, like, iron sharpens iron, like, ironclad, like, head to head, like, so anyway, I needed to.
Yeah. No, I like that. How do you treat your kin, right? I mean, that's what you're saying. How do you treat your kin?
Kindness.
Yeah.
How do you show kindness? You
Yeah.
treat them like a brother or a sister.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's right. That's the job of the church, and it's the job of Christians. We should be that. We should be a light in the world, recognizing that that we are foreigners in the world, that the church, back in Jesus's day, and pretty much, in a lot of places today, operates on the fringes, really helping people who are desperate to find a little bit of peace and kindness and a place where they're welcomed and loved. That's the purpose of the church and the people. And so burning a book or canceling someone because they said something that you don't like, you live in a non-Christian world. Everything should be something that you disagree with for the most part, or something that you don't necessarily like. Don't get, all bent out of shape because at the halftime show, J-Lo was wearing what she wore and she danced the way she danced. This isn't a Christian world.
Yeah.
And you need to grow up and grow a pair and realize that your job is to still love people. That you burning a book isn't drawing people closer into the family of God.
Yeah.
And closer into your family. It's driving a massive wedge between you and culture.
So what you're saying is that you're recognizing not just cancel culture as a problem of the left, but it also a problem of the right.
Yes,
as
it is.
Conservative.
It may take different forms, but it's the same thing. Book burning is cancel culture. When he burned George Orwell's 1984 or, Catcher in the Rye or whatever. It's the same thing. Now, so that's a Christian. I think that should be the Christian perspective.
Yeah.
Let's win the world over with kindness, not by demanding that they adhere to a set of Christian principles when they're not Christian.
Yeah.
That just seems silly. And we lose credibility with the world, and we're called hypocrites, and rightly so, because we burn all these books, and then we find out that, such and such pastor had a moral failing and has been doing this, that, and whatever, and embezzling money or cheating on his wife.
Shout out to that Christian comedian that just got clocked over the head. There's some Christian comedian.
Really?
He John Christ.
Okay.
You know him?
Yeah, I know of him. I don't really know him, but
clocked over the head with he's apparently Instagram fiend, messaging girls and saying, "Sup?
Oh, really?
What you doing tonight? I'm in town."
Oof.
Yeah. Oof. He's right.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. That's not helping, right? How can you cancel? Like, if that dude, I don't know what he stands for or whatever, but if that dude, and we don't need him as an example, there's been plenty of others who stood opposed, righteously opposed to certain things and called for the canceling of whatever. And it turns out that their lives were just an absolute abhorrent mess. We're not winning any credibility with society. And so the church largely is considered hypocritical and outdated and whatever.
I have found out recently what a hypocrite was. A hypocrite isn't necessarily somebody that doesn't follow their own standards, but they actively pursue potential A hypocrite is somebody who not only does these things that they say not to do, but they also tell others that they should not do them.
Mm-hmm.
Take here's an example out of the sky: Leonardo DiCaprio talking about climate change, and he's flying around on planes, and he's got like 10 homes.
Right. Right.
That's
Carbon
a hypocrite.
footprint is gigantic. Right.
That's a hypocrite.
Right.
It's not hypocritical to have 10 homes, fly around on a private jet, and not say anything about climate change.
Yep.
So
you should live this way. I'm not going to do it, but you should live this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. because of these morals that I have.
Yeah. It's coming in so many different forms too.
Yeah.
And I think that cancel culture is hypocritical.
It's hypocritical. You have a narrative. You're allowed to speak what you believe, but I can't speak what I believe. And I think
I get to say what I want, but you don't get to say what you want.
Right.
I can say what I believe in.
Well, and you can say what you believe in, unless what you believe in disagrees with what I believe in.
Yeah, that's
then
hypocritical, wouldn't it be? That's
yeah, that's right. Yeah, and so so I think from the church, the stance. I mean, I think we could loosen up a bit. There's stuff in the world that offends us, as it should.
Yeah.
We live in a secular world, and we're supposed to be a light to that world.
Yeah.
And through our actions and our loving others, show people that what the kingdom of God looks like. And then, so the secular world, I think that, freedom of speech is societally regulated. If someone says something that is just outrageous and terrible,
there will be a consequence.
There will be a natural consequence. There will be
regardless of laws being in place.
That's right.
In fact, the consequences actually usually of the societal outweigh what the government could be.
Yeah, that's right.
Punishment. The society's punishment always, I think, outweighs the government's capability. The society has the capability to... People have a much simpler... or people know how to hurt other people. And if you do something wrong, the group of people, like the judge, it's in an individual's case right there, and then you get this, whatever. That doesn't compare to just hundreds of thousands of people that hate you because you said that you'd break a dollhouse over your potentially gay child's head.
Right.
As a joke.
Right. That's right.
Shout out to Kevin Hart.
That's right. So, I mean, so jokes, right? There was a comedian, I forget who it was, that had this philosophy that culture decides what's funny. So you make a joke, you tell your joke, people either laugh at it, and if they do, then you tell the joke again at another venue. It works its way into your material. Or it doesn't, it dies. You say a joke and it's too offensive, and everyone's like, oof. And you're like, okay, noted. I'm not going to say that joke again.
Yeah.
And so society regulates humor. It regulates comedians. It regulates what's funny and what's not, what's offensive and what's not.
Inherently, could you say? I mean, would that be the right word? It does it naturally. It's innate.
Yes, absolutely. And granted, different cultures will laugh at different things. Different people will laugh at different things.
Well,
right?
A British comedian can get away with some other things that an American comedian couldn't get away
100%.
with. 100%. I mean, if you watch some YouTube videos of... I mean...
They say some of the most atrocious...
What was that gal that went around and said, like, hey, we don't want the climate change and stuff? Etta Thunberg?
Yeah.
Okay, I watched this comedian do a puppet of her, in
the UK?
In the UK.
Yeah.
Just in a pub. I mean, he just had that swaggy kind of British accent, more than something that there's the clean English speakers, right? And then there's the ones that are the what are they?
The working class.
Is that it? Is that really? There's a difference in the working class and the
it's just, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
The Boris Johnson of...
Yeah, so there's definitely the working class accent.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it's kind of like hearing, the US of A when the country accent.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but over there, then they said that,
Yeah, there's proper English.
Proper.
And there's
yes.
Common English.
What is that actor's name that has the more proper English? I can't think of his name. He's Jason Statham.
Right.
Yes, he's got the more proper. And then you have all of those movies with you ever seen the movie Snatch?
Yeah.
Okay. So then you have, well, you got the cognies. Okay. But then you also, okay, dag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hold on, I got to get my mom.
Right.
I'm not. I used to be able to do. Now I'm starting to sound like a Kennedy.
A little bit.
But in all seriousness, back to the cancel culture and what Christians can do in this moment of just absolute. Don't
insanity.
Say this.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's.
As a professional, keeping your mouth shut guy that went through it in high school.
Yeah, there you go. Professional, keeping your mouth shut guy. You know, I think that
Speak
Christians need to, I don't know, I mean, I think Christians need to stand for the core tenets of the Bible, which are all action based.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think that. I think that if most Christians saw themselves with the responsibility of being a little version of Jesus in their community, which means you don't just go to church on Sunday and then go home,
Mm-hmm.
but you have a responsibility to see your neighborhood and the people who are struggling in your neighborhood and actively try to do something about it. And to love that person and welcome that person, to reach across, you know, whatever boundaries there may be between you two, and with a gracious hand. If Christians operated that way, which is the tenets of the gospel,
Yeah,
and the epitome of Jesus' example and his walk on earth, right? That's exactly what he did. He came to earth and he hung out with people who were kind of the undesirables, the people who were the down and outers, who had lost hope. And he gave them hope. And our job is to be hope bringers to the world. So there's this word called the eschaton. So when all things come to an end on earth, Christ will return and usher in the kingdom of God to the earth. And that is the eschaton, the end of the plan. When the plan has been realized. And that will be such an amazing time when humanity is reconciled to its creator and sin is dealt with. It's gone away. So that sin that's intertwined with our hearts vanished.
yeah,
And now we're fully reconciled with God. And what an amazing time that'll be. And in the meantime, our job is to be examples of that, a reflection of that. So this is what's coming, right? This community of Christians who are in the world reconciling people's hurts and pains and genuinely making a kind and good difference in the world. If Christians did that, no one would want to cancel it. No one would be speaking out against it. Or if they did, society would regulate and be like, whoa, Christians are good people. What are you talking about? You know, here's
well, I think that the best reflection of society right now is actually YouTube.
Yeah, it's all out there.
And that if somebody does say something, that I actually, I'm comfortable knowing that like God's got my back, right, in any instance. But I also feel a comfort in posting to YouTube. Because I know that this is a community that even secular, I've seen some absolute miracles of on YouTube of secular people defending religious supporting secular voices on YouTube.
Yeah.
I mean the what is it, the dark web, what do they call it? Something, the internet's dark web. It's with Jordan Peterson and like Ben Shapiro and Joe Rogan and these really prominent voices that all have very different views. Mm-hmm. Ben Shapiro being Jewish, Jordan Peterson being less of a Christian and more of a philosophical,
right,
existentialist. I can't really coin him that, but
sure,
if we're gonna, and then Joe Rogan, who's like a secular liberal,
right,
and then you have like Brett Weinstein, who I think attends a Jewish church but doesn't actually believe in the sacraments, and then you have, and so like YouTube has become like this. And then PewDiePie, I don't know where PewDiePie stands religiously, but he's still definitely a voice on the platform with 91 million, more than that. Because when I followed him, he's got like 110.
That's ridiculous.
Was it million? Yeah, I think it's million, billion. I don't know, million, probably million. We'll say million because there's not 101 billion people in the world.
No.
So, but having these checks and balances of regulation on this one website on YouTube,
right?
Like if you go from Twitter to hop on YouTube, and you start spouting off some stuff that's just not true, good luck. Like you will get shut down.
Yeah.
And it's not that you will get censored. Although YouTube has been censoring some specific voices.
Yeah, sure.
That I see, and it's really messed up.
Sure. You'll be rebutted.
But you will be reproved and rebuked by the community.
Right.
Inside YouTube. Like it's I think it's the most tight-knit social media. I think that if I were to say like a social media that will be here in the next 25, 30, 40, 50 years, it would be YouTube. And I think that's partly because of the effort that it takes to create something and put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Whereas Twitter, it just
right.
On Facebook, you might have to post a picture or whatever and be constant.
Well,
but
it's funny you say that because I think there's something to that, right? So like, Twitter, these like microscopic social media posts, right? You're just posting a sentence or a couple of sentences, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, they're all based around that, like the one sentence post. And so it lends itself to you having to say something provocative and outrageous to get a response, right? Because it's one sentence.
Or not just a response, but attention.
Right. It's a soundbite.
Yeah.
You can't fully explain a complex issue like cancel culture or whatever we've been talking about in a soundbite.
Yeah.
And so it takes a platform like YouTube to go deep on these issues and have a real conversation. So that makes a lot of sense.
It is. I think that it is the most intellectually potent, maybe no, but the most. You're gonna find the smartest people on YouTube. And I think that you could say that objectively. Twitter might not like it that I said that.
Well, no, I think you're going to see.
And I'm not tooting my horn either.
Sure. I mean, there's smart people on every platform, but on YouTube, they debate.
Yeah.
Right. It's an actual debate. It's a conversation about something versus.
Well, you pop up a vlog over here. Even if it's vlog or creativity, like this will pop up right here, and then like this other, you have all these checks and balances of people being like, like Casey Neistat is one of the biggest vloggers, and yet if you look up the dark side of Casey Neistat, you find plenty of stories of him selling his company to CNN, and then also saying not to vote for Donald Trump, and just some really dark stuff, and then like it comes through, and it's conspiracy to the rest of the world, but it's truth for the community on YouTube, and people see it.
Sure.
Like I can almost say with confidence too that the majority of YouTube is conservative. Like the community. Clearly, these are just like I haven't done any studies.
Sure.
Well,
I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense too, because I mean, where else do you put your conservative content? You know what I mean?
You can't put it on Facebook.
It's not.
They block the groups. You can't put it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Twitter will shadow ban you and kick you off.
Yeah, and and there's far less, and I think this is pretty objective, far less conservative representation in the media, clearly, than there is liberal representation in the media.
For sure.
So when a story, a liberal post is out there, there's very little to refute it, or so it makes sense that YouTube would be the place where conservatives find their voice. That's interesting. I would have never thought that.
Yeah.
But it kind of makes sense.
So, if you look at, you have to look up the Turks, the Young Turks. The Young Turks is a liberal organization, and there's this guy named Cenk Uygur who runs it. Kind of sounds like this.
Okay.
And I'm making fun of him because we're like 3.5 hours in, and this is the point where it's just like anything goes. But he runs a YouTube channel, and they've got something like 4 or 5 million. But if you look at the views that he receives, it's nowhere comparable to someone like Steven Crowder.
No kidding.
Yeah, like it's, and like even Vox, like Vox will come out with a video. Here's something that like just some unknown information that's like true when it comes to YouTube is that you'll see a video post and what I'll do is I'll go incognito. It basically means that they're not like tracking who I am.
Okay.
They're still tracking, I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
But basically it doesn't show me. It shows me the comments that it would show somebody who would just didn't have an account and just hopped on YouTube. And you'll go to a video and you'll see 100 million likes on it, but then it'll have like 10 million dislikes. And then you go to the comments on incognito, and you'll see that the people who comment are people with accounts, and it's just over, like it's a majority of them are just negative comments. Not negative comments, but calling them out, right? And then this is when you get really the community gets involved. YouTube does a rewind. Basically, does this video where it shows what goes on, what the biggest moments of YouTube. Like it kind of like recaps the year,
okay,
right? And takes little pieces of it, right?
Yeah.
So they released one last year, and it was so cringe. So you know what cringe is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So cringe that, and I'll pop it up here. I'm not going to show it to you, but this is something that rewind 2019, I think it is. It'd be last year's. Make sure that doesn't play the song. Yeah. 2.7 million likes, 17 million dislikes. Would you say that the community of YouTube liked that video or disliked that video?
Yeah,
because this is a video that YouTube community watches.
Right.
If you post YouTube Rewind to Facebook, people who aren't on Facebook, they don't know who a lot of these creators are.
Sure.
But if you're a part of the YouTube YouTube community, you know who Logan Paul is, you know who Lele Pons is, you know who, if you don't watch their content. So
everybody disliked it.
Yes. Yeah. You see a very big push up against YouTube. Like the creators have a voice, and they recognize that they have a voice, and like they're kind of just like ever so slightly like pushing up against like this whole like PewDiePie. He's got a more conservative outlook on things, and he has the second most subscribers. The first is some T-series that's a Indian Hollywood type.
Gotcha.
Music videos.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, if you can hack into that market, good grief.
Yeah. But But yeah, I mean, and then 2020. I mean, you can't even find the 2020. It's not even in the here. YouTube Rewind. No, I can't even find YouTube Rewind 2020. Like, they control these algorithms, but I can't find 2020. Anyway, all that to say is that oh, I guess it's 2019. I'm dumb. It's 2020. But the one that I told you about was the 2018, and then 2019 they came back, and they just did an algorithm. They like this is maybe we'll close on this, and I'll show this to you because I think it's very shaping of 2019. Could I please just get 2019? 2019? Okay, yeah, this is the top one. So this one has 8.7 million dislikes and 3.3 million likes.
Wow. So not doing so good this one either.
Nope. That was Casey Neistat, by the way. Yeah, so they've recognized it. So this is how, if viewers, listeners, if you're listening on the podcast, get on the YouTube community. Watchers, you know what I'm talking about. Jake here is experiencing. So they come out with this video in 2019, at the end of 2019, and they go, in 2018, we made something you didn't like. You're going to make a statement like that?
Right.
It wasn't in 2018, we made something that wasn't good.
Right.
No. It was like, no, we made something that you didn't like.
Right.
We liked it.
Right.
We liked it. We liked it a lot. But so in 2019, let's see what you did.
You did like, because you're better at this than we are. And still they got. Is that many?
Not just like the biggest like?
Yeah. I mean, they're trying. They're trying to win over the community.
So they played the algorithm and they said who had the most likes on these videos, and
right. Let's just play it.
So anyway, now you're up to date on.
Got it.
On social media and cancel culture, is that YouTube is the place to go.
YouTube's the place to go.
And that's why I stream predominantly on YouTube.
Yep.
And yeah.
I like that. Yeah, and I think the Christian response to cancel culture should be,
let it play out.
Yeah, I mean, we should stand up for when Christians are being bullied, unfairly bullied. Yeah. We should rally together. If anyone's being unfairly bullied.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We should stand.
Secular, religious.
Yeah,
just
absolutely. Jordan Peterson was unfairly bullied, I think.
Yeah.
But he's got a loud voice. He's got a strong following, and so he'll be fine.
Well, he's actually going through did you watch his daughter posted up a video recently that pretty much explained how they're doing. He's gone through it. They didn't call it addiction, but his body has become very reliant on a drug that he's been taking.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and but she said that he's laughing again. He's got a sense of humor back.
I mean, that must have been a dark. He just got crushed by people, but he's so smart and he articulates his point so well, and he's so reasonable. He's a reasonable guy.
Yeah.
But bullies nevertheless. If someone's being unfairly bullied, then we should stand up for them.
Yeah.
Because that's our job.
Mm-hmm.
Our job as Christians is to be that for everyone, to help the down and outers, to help people who need help.
Yes. Just like on the YouTube community. Like
straight up.
It's straight up. I think honestly, if I were to say like the most the most godly, the most pure community that we have right now, like in this world, dare I say, it's the YouTube community. Like that actually reflects
coming together, helping each other out, defending one another.
Like what I read in the Bible, and like if I were to like.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's one of those teary moments right there.
I think
that's real though. I think that's true. And I think that I don't think that people have actually said that.
Right.
But I think it's true. Based off of the things that I have seen in this community, it's like, don't get me wrong, there's outliers.
Sure.
But, you know.
Well, I love that. I love it. I mean, I'm not, you know, I know very little about YouTube and the community and that kind of stuff, but that's cool.
Yeah.
I think that the only caveat I would say to what I just said, Christians need to stand up for one another, is, you know, everything we do should be done in love. So even when you rebuke someone, you do it in love, and that's hard.
Yeah, it is.
Right, it's hard to in everything, and when you defend your brother,
especially whenever somebody is not of faith. I don't.
Yeah, and we still have a responsibility, regardless, even if they completely disagree with you on everything.
2 Timothy 4:2. Shared this with my sister the other day. Is that it says in season, out season. I'm gonna butcher it. I really just need to I gotta memorize these verses that are so prominent.
You and me both. I'm terrible at verse memorization.
I meant to say that to Isaac and I have like we did the podcast this morning, and I wanted to do like a challenge at the end of the video for the people who listen and for ourselves, and it was just to memorize a verse over a course of 2 weeks.
Nice.
Like that's it.
I like it.
But 2 Timothy 4:2, I think it's that. Yeah. Preach the word, be ready in season and out of season, reprove, rebuke, and exhort with complete patience and teaching. Now, it wasn't until I shared it with my sister that I was like, at the beginning, it says, I charge you in the presence of God and of Christ Jesus, who is to judge the living and the dead, and by his appearing and his kingdom. That right there outlines that it's not just those who are living. And whenever Paul is referring to the living to Timothy, is clearly saying those who believe.
Yeah.
And those who are dead, those who do not believe. But he clearly says this, like, hey, whether they believe or don't believe, like, preach the word.
Right.
Be ready in season and out of season.
Right.
Reprove, rebuke, exhort, to correct, to warn, and to encourage with complete patience and teaching. Which, what does he describe love is? Love is patience.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
right on.
And I think that patience is synonymous with listening. But
yeah, that's right. And it's hard to live that way, but that's the charge.
Yeah.
Like love, everything done in love.
Yeah.
And you can defend your brother in love, and you can rebuke someone in love, and you have to have love for your enemies, have to, or those you perceive as your enemies or whatever.
Yeah.
So even coming to their aid and defense.
And I don't think you can do that by sitting in a chair. I don't think you could do it on your phone.
No.
So I guess I would restate the comment that I made about YouTube being the most like godlike, biblically sound, or like the most good on the internet.
There you go.
You know,
yeah.
I can't attest for communities that are on the ground thriving. You know,
yeah.
I can't be everywhere at once.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen online, it's the most pure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think that there are small groups of churches and Christians all throughout the world who are radically changing their little community, and no one has a clue. No one knows what they're doing. Their ministry is small, but it's powerful to the people that they interact with.
Well, how many people has Billy Graham, like his foundation, helped? And did you hear about his story, like where Billy Graham heard the word?
I have, but it's been a long time.
Well, I can't tell the story myself, but I do know that it was like, like he was at some camp or some like, at some friend's house or something, and it was just somebody shared with him something that was true, and it that little ember turned into a blazing fire.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I think we need to remember that a lot of Christian activity is totally understated, and it's not being promoted, and it's not a loud voice. It's quiet and it's subversive, and it's just happening everywhere. Little pockets of Christians are just being Christians and being good people, and they're changing their society.
Yeah.
I have
they're just not society as a whole, but just their immediate circle.
Their little pocket of influence.
Yeah.
I have a huge privilege of being able to travel the world for my job.
Yeah.
And interact with local churches. And they're small, humble local churches in the middle of nowhere oftentimes. And they're the vast majority of the partners that we have in local churches are just awesome. They're doing incredible things, just serving people like with reckless abandon.
The poor, the widows.
Yes, they're all welcome.
The disabled.
Absolutely, they're all welcome, and the church is seen as So, I'll say this, and then we can call it good. There's a lady, a brilliant lady who works at Go Project in Africa, and her name is Rose. And Rose is from the Congo. And she escaped the Congo during an ethnic conflict. Two tribes were in conflict. And
is that something that happens often?
In the Congo, unfortunately, it does happen fairly. It's happening right now.
Like just little civil wars that break out?
Yeah, and it's...
less civil than more like...
Yeah, sometimes
tribal.
it's like... Sometimes it's tribal, sometimes it's different warlords.
What are their weapons like? They use guns or spears still?
There's guns, but I don't know, but I think there's guns, but it's pretty brutal. There's a lot of machetes and,
Oof.
It's.
Well, I'm sure that like a gun is a...
costs some money to get a gun.
Well, it costs some money, and it also shows a little bit of weakness.
I don't know, but anyway, it was brutal back in like 99 and 2000 when she left. I think it's like 1 million people displaced, a few 100,000 dead. It was atrocious.
Yeah.
And so she left Congo and got to Uganda, the neighboring country, and arrived in Uganda. And she doesn't speak the language, doesn't know anyone. Somebody stuck her on a plane and said, "They're coming to the university dorms to butcher everybody. I'm putting you on it." That's where she lives. She's in university. "I'm putting you on a plane. I'm sending you to Uganda. Just get out." And she arrived with nothing. Couldn't even speak the language. And so she gets, a taxi. Basically, the Ugandan government had been receiving tens of thousands of refugees. And they stuck her in a taxi and said, "This guy will take you wherever you want to go." "Where do you want to go?" And she's like, "Take me to the church."
Yeah.
And so they were like, "Okay, which church?" She said, "Well, I'm an Anglican. Take me to the closest Anglican church." So they took her to this Anglican church. She bangs on the door, and the door opens. And she's trying to explain that she's from Congo, and she's,
Doesn't speak the language.
Doesn't speak the language. And this person looks at her for a second and just holds her hand and brings her in, closes the door, takes her through these little corridors into this back room, and she opens the door. And there's 20 young ladies all sitting around a table about ready to eat dinner, who are all from the Congo, that did the exact same thing. And here the pastor of the church with his family are sitting to eat at this big table together. And she comes in, she sits down, and so when she was in trouble, she knew I go to the church. And when she arrived at the church, they brought her in and they said, "Oh, welcome. Here are 20 of your sisters who also came from the Congo. Welcome to our family." And she lived with the pastor for the next like 5 or 6 years. And they all did. And many of them got married, got educated, went on and had great jobs. She's one of the smartest people I know, period. Just a brilliant person. That's her story.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're in trouble in the United States, where do you go? Right? If you're homeless, or if you
go to the government,
go out of, you've been incarcerated and you come out, whatever your situation, if you're in desperate need, where do you go?
You'd hope a church.
You'd hope a church.
But that's
and there
not the
used to
case.
be a time when that was the case.
Yeah.
When you went to the church and you expected that. And it's less and less now. And that's a bummer, because in the United States, we've forgotten that.
Yeah.
We've forgotten the purpose of the church. You go overseas to some of the developing world countries, and the church is absolutely that. If you're in trouble, you go to the church, and they help. They've retained that purity of the mission of the church, and we've kind of lost that a bit. If we could rekindle that, oh man, that would be amazing. And that's the purpose. So
yeah,
I think that, anyway, there we go.
Oh, that was a great closer. I don't have anything to match that. I hope that I have a story to tell that could fall.
It's not my story, but I get to tell it.
Rose.
Because I know Rose, and she's something else.
Yeah, that's. Okay. I don't know how to close these things.
I don't know. You're the pro. This is my first one.
Wait. Has it been on me the whole time? Check mic.
No, it's been on.
It's switched?
I think so. I haven't really been looking too much. Which screen am I supposed to look at?
Oh, yeah, that works. Okay.
Oh, there I am.
Yeah. Yeah, we're good. Some people look at that. Don't like them to look at it. I don't like looking at myself, and I know you don't like looking at yourself.
They just go like this as they talk to you. That's a really good point.
Yeah, like over here. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. I don't know how to. Oh yeah, I've got to take this here. This is actually the first time where like I turned the screen around to where I can in stream. Thanks for listening. Thanks for. I think that we do this on camera. Where we shake.
We shake hands. There you go.
Oh,
nice secret shake. Is that the YouTube?
Yeah, you're part of the community.
Well, thanks for making me feel welcome.
It's the Americans that pretend that they're Irish podcast crew.
That's a small community.